Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Raconteurs News this Tuesday evening on the 23rd of February 2016, broadcasting on peoplesinternetradio.com, and also don't forget to find us on raconteursnews.com, and of course you can find us in the Book of Faces. Just do a search for Raconteurs News and you can find us there. Tonight it's your host, me, hey. And I'm Jason Holmes, and I'm joined, as usual, by Andy Young. How you doing, Andy?
Good evening, Jason. I'm on top form, mate. I'm just staring out of the window at an absolutely beautiful golden moon. Looks terrific. Due east for anybody who wants to have a look at it now.
Fantastic. Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Nice. I noticed this morning I was driving over to Manchester, and there was a huge full moon this morning around about 6 o'clock ourselves. There was a huge full moon and it was beautiful right in front of me, and I'm quite mesmerised by it, actually. You have to be a bit careful on Snake Pass with all bends and everything, but yeah, quite mesmerising, the moon at the moment. It seems to be really beautiful. Yeah,
it's absolutely gorgeous, mate. Yes, but tonight we've got a bit of a treat for all the listeners, because I know everybody was quite disappointed the other week when something happened and Russ couldn't make it, but we've finally got hold of Russ McGarry. Good evening, Russ. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Good evening, fellas.
Good evening, Russ.
Good evening.
So, I think most of the people who are listening to this must have seen your video that's on YouTube. Can you tell us a little bit about how your story started, Russ?
Right, yeah, of course I can, yeah. I'm glad people took note of the video, even though the outcome wasn't too impressive. But show it as it is. My problems, well, I didn't even actually think I had a problem. I was in no arguments with my bank. Me and my wife, we was in business. We ended up having to take out a loan. We took out an $8,000 loan. That was in 2004. We was advised to get a variable interest rate loan because we was told that the interest rates were going to plummet, which is what they did do, and they went up to an all-time low, I think, in 2009. I should have got smelt a rat, really, because my payments never came down with my interest, but I had other things in my life. I weren't really worried about it. So, you know, when letters start coming through your door, that you start taking a little bit of note. Anyway, me and my wife actually paid the mortgage. Well, it wasn't a mortgage, it was a secured loan. We paid the mortgage off 10 months early. And everything we thought was absolutely hunky-dory. We'd both practically retired then. And things was okay. All of a sudden, literally another 10 months later, 11 months later, I get a letter through the door, and it's from the bank stating that we still owe £5,666. Now, I found this quite strange and quite alarming, as you would do. So I got in touch with the bank, and they started coming up with all this bullshit, that there's these charges, there's this charges, there's this, that and the other. Cut a long story short with that bit, I counterclaimed it. I went to court, went, this isn't right. I put in for a all-access metadata release. It got adjourned. This is the beginning of 2012. It got adjourned, and I actually kept it out the court for it must have been 14, 16 months.
Sorry, Russ. I don't mean to interrupt. Can I just clarify something? This is the loan you're talking about, is it? Because you did say that you paid the mortgage off 10 months.
Yeah, no, I got it. No, the loan. When I said mortgage, what I actually
I just want to clarify, because mortgage and a loan are two completely different things, and I don't want people to get confused. Yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
It was a secured loan against my property.
Right.
So yeah, forgive me where that is. It's just the amount of times that I've seen the word mortgage in the last how many years. It's quite shocking. But anyway, keeps them away. And I weren't worried in any way, shape or form. Because one thing that my wife never does is throw away anything. And I was a little bit worried. She said, you don't have to be. And she actually pulled in a big case. And this case was full of every single document that they sent me. When we asked for the metadata, obviously half the documents were missing. And I was challenging and keeping it going, you're supposed to give me this, you're supposed to give me that. I've got copies of this, which you're not sending me duplicate certified copies of. But it went on and on and on and on. Anyway, when it comes to crunch time, which was back in 2013, November the 5th, 2013. November the 5th, 2014. It's been going on for a hell of a long time. On November the 5th, I go to court. I'm quite confident. The judges directed the woman to deal with it, the claimant's solicitors to deal with it, or barrister as she was, to deal with it outside if we could come to some amendment. But I'm a bit of a stubborn guy, and I wish I weren't, you know what I mean? I wish I'd have took a slightly different path, you know, but being a 50-odd-year-old stubborn northerner, it just doesn't, it didn't work. I did bite it, and I said, no, I want my time in court. And I went into court, and bearing in mind, you know, I'd been on a lot of sites like Get Out of There, and I'd done a lot of research. I knew it weren't a court. I didn't really expect to get a result in that court. But all I was trying to do in that court was lay the foundations down for an appeal. When I got to court, quite surprising. I was absolutely amazed because, I did subpoena the CEO of the bank, who didn't turn up, and I did subpoena the head of accounts. Now, the head of accounts turned up, and it was very interesting because he didn't lie. He was on the oath. He actually stated that we paid £1,666 too much.
That includes the interest.
That was, I'd actually, the amount, basically working off, because I'd argued with them for an hour in court about the variable interest. You know what I mean? But in the end, I've gone, well, let's have a go at that. I gets the accountant into the dock, gets her in there. I said, how much did we borrow? She said, X amount. I said, how much, if all the payments were made, how much should I have paid at the end of the term? Now, we had it all worked out anyway. It actually works out that we paid 1,666. That's what I was telling Andy about. My wife put this name up for me with the 666 on the end. It's got nothing to do with me being a devil. It's just an in-house joke. Here we go. Daz is here. How you doing, Daz?
Right.
How are you doing? So anyway, the case went on. It was about. I'm in Wigan Court all the time, and I always know they really want you out for 4 o'clock. But I was still in there at what? Well, I left there at 6:20. I got thrown out of there. When the judge did his summing up, bearing in mind, I'm getting into an argument, and the claimants now are trying to say that these are costs. Well, I hadn't done enough research to realise that, and I didn't have an argument in the court, was they couldn't take my property off me for the costs, because the actual amount was actually paid. I don't want to go into it. All the stuff of how they do it, because I'm quite sure everybody knows about the securitisation of loans and any creditable instrument, really. But it was just nuts. In the end, the actual judge turned round and she was about to. She said she started summing up just before she finished summing up. It was the worst mistake I've ever done in my life, and I hope nobody ever repeats this. Never ask a judge for an oath. Never be arrogant with these people, because our arrogance is never going to beat their arrogance. You know what I mean? They're in a position of arrogance, you know. I came out with a ridiculous statement. I said, before you pass your judgment on your oath, and she claimed, she said she was on her oath. I said, can I inspect your oath now? And she said, I haven't got it with me. So I said, well, you can't pass judgment in this courtroom. It'll have to be, put off to another day. She went, I'll pass my judgment. That's the way that it is. We got into an heated argument. She said she'd have me arrested. I said, I'll have her arrested. Group 4 put me out of the court. I weren't bothered. I was a bit upset, but I weren't bothered. Because somewhere, even though I knew it weren't, somewhere in the back of your mind, whether it's still your subconscious mind that's jumping all over you, you honestly think, there's got to be some justification, and justice must prevail somewhere. And since I've lost my case, justice has prevailed in many, many other cases. But on that's what they did. The next thing that they did to me, which was the real sticking point, is, and even then I didn't notice it, I had 21 days to put my appeal in, so I got my appeal in on time. get me bungles, 3 lots of bungles, one for the witness box, one for the judge, one for the claimant. I actually hand deliver them. The ones I send the ones off to the claimant solicitor, but I hand deliver the court ones to Wigan Court itself. Bear in mind now it's being moved from Wigan County Court to Liverpool County Court. I get my paperwork in time, pay me fee as you do, get a receipt for my fee, and get a complimentary slip. Complimentary slip stating that I put my documentation in. One of the mistakes I think I did make at that stage is, which we do every time that we go to court now, is you stand there until they actually put it on the system, log it on the system. I want to see it logged on the system. That's another thing I would emphasise that you should do with any document you present to a court. So I'm waiting to hear back from a judge in Liverpool, which I did do. And it said, unfortunately, your case has been struck out because you didn't get your documentation in on time. So I write back to this judge immediately, and I went, there's a copy of my receipt, I did get them in on time. So he wrote back to me, he kind of set aside the order that he just set aside, and went, I'm going to give you 7 more days to present your bungle and your evidence for your appeal. Then I got that 5 days into the 7 days. You know, they play them nice little postman games with you. You get your letter and you have no time. Me and my wife run around like headless chickens over the next night, all that next night and after next day, printed out all these bungles again. So I'd take them back down to the court and I'll hand them in. I know I'm a little bit more cocky because I'm videoing it, but I don't trust them. They've lost them once. I put my documents in. Come away thinking everything's okay, just waiting to get a court date to go to Liverpool. I get another letter back from the judge that wrote back to me saying that I didn't get them in, and he struck it out completely because he said he gave me 7 days to get them in on time, and I didn't get them in on time. Well, I've 2 receipts now, you know what I mean, in time, dated within the time scale of my appeal and the order that the judge gave me of 7 days extra to whack my paperwork back in. He fired me off. He just basically threw us to the side. So I went and put in, I went to see what I could do. I went and put an appeal against that decision. After I put 2 in, all of a sudden I've got a restraint order on me. 2-year extended one. So I can't go into any court in the country and mention this case number. Since then, we found out how we can now get back into the courts when they put these civil restraint orders upon us, you know. And that's only by being called as a witness, you know, and you can do that by giving somebody else power of attorney. But what am I up to? Is Daz waving his arms out, nipping in and out.
Well, just for sake of anybody just joining us, can we just do a bit of a recap? Because, I mean, there's such a lot of information, and I'm sat here and I'm sort of like, my head's spinning. I don't know where we are at the moment. So if you just do a recap, just let us know. So you borrowed this amount of money, then this happened, that it's in dispute, and then... I borrowed X amount of pounds. We paid it back. We get these bogus fucking letters. Forgive me for swearing, but whenever I think of the Lehman Brothers, it drives me crazy. You know, the guys are in prison while I'm sat here answering to you. You know what I mean? It's a bit ludicrous. I end up going to court. I end up losing the court case over cost, nothing to do with arrears in any way, shape, or form, or nothing like that. I think I'm going to get an appeal, but I'm blocked. And realistically, I should have took them to Liverpool, and they would have took them. Upsetting that judge did a big grey cloud came over me every time my name's mentioned in that cloud. That it has ever since. What she actually did, and it will tie in as the story unfolds, because it's really, really sounds so far. It sounds far-fetched. It sounds like, oh no, that couldn't happen. It's only because we do know people that things like this happen to. So basically, I'm up to where I've put in my pay, and I'm up to now where I've got a civil restraint order on me. So I think I've only got one last option. Now, what happened was, because now I've got eviction notices now coming through my door.
So I've shot down to the Royal Court, got in front of a master, and the master was I find them all very, very, very easy to speak to. You know what I mean? I don't see none of that snottery there. I've seen it when people are taking frivolous claims and frivolous arguments into there that they're not interested. But if you have got a claim, they will listen. This master actually turned round to me this day and he went, no, what did I actually try to do? My wife, the same day, this is the day before my first eviction attempt, the day before, I've got to make a decision. Do I try and get back into Wigan Court where they're not going to let me in? I've even had the security going, you're not allowed in the court. Do you know what I mean? This is how fucking ridiculous. You don't mind me swearing. If there's a problem with that, I will stop. But this is the pent-up emotion that these people, give us all the time. Bearing in mind, nowadays, their attitudes are totally different. Unless you wear a hat, isn't that right, Daz?
Yeah.
But
the enforcement badge comes out.
Yeah, so...
Well, Russ, on the subject of swearing, we try and avoid it, but we realise in the heat of the moment, old words slip out, and we're all adults here. Happy days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, can you hear?
I can hear.
You can hear that, right. So anyway, I've got to the point where this is, so I'm stuck in a dilemma. I can either go into Wigan Court and try and get in there. I know they're not going to get me in there. Or else I can go to the Royal Court of Justice and possibly pull something off in there. But bearing in mind, it's the same day. So I've asked one of my friends who's into all this, would he go to court with my wife in Wigan to see if we could get it set aside? And, these are the reasons why we've got these receipts. We never even seen another judge. They've gone into there in the morning. She got in front of the judge. He threw her out and put a 2-year restraint order on her as well. So that was it. We're not dealing with you in Wigan anymore. So at this time, I'm in front of a master in London who's listened to what I've got to say, and he's actually sent me down to courtroom 36. So I'm thinking absolutely brilliant, eh? I'm in the division.
37.
37? Yeah, 37, yeah. Next to 36. That's only been once. I'm only kidding. I go down, and I do, 2 o'clock, I'm hanging about, all sorts of mad other panic issues, like I borrowed my mother's car to go there. I've had to park it across from the Royal Court of Justice where you pay by a debit card, but you go 1 minute over, they're going to stick her on a wagon, you're never going to see that car again. So there's all sorts of mad things going through my head. I've actually got in front of a judge in Court 37, who listened to my case until I mentioned the restraint order being put on me. As soon as I mentioned that, she just said, stop, there is nothing I can do. And I'm gobsmacked now. I'm like, you telling me that you've got no jurisdiction whatsoever over a district judge sitting in Wigan, a little town called Wigan. She said, I cannot do anything about it. So I came out the court, I phoned my missus up. I'll tell you the date, it was the 4th of May. I phoned my missus up and she went, how did you get on? Because I didn't get on at all. Well, I got a straight put on me. I went, it didn't go down well. She said, so we started packing. Now, bearing in mind, we'd already moved the majority of our stuff out the house because you've always got a plan for another day. So I weren't too worried about that, but that night was a bit crazy because it was get stuff out that you don't want to leave in there. Next morning the bailiff's come, he comes to the door. Now bearing in mind, I'm going back now to 2012 when this company first started having a go at me. I stitched them with I wanted to know, so I sent a notice off to the CEO and I asked him. It started off at 76 questions, and then the last one I sent him was about 125, and I asked him to rebut it. And basically, what I was doing was, did you give in the argument of did you give me the money? He didn't rebut nothing. I said he took the piss absolutely totally. I sent all my documents that I sent to this guy with notary public seal, and a lot of people have arguments about the importance of a notary public. I find them very good to argue in courts, but then again, the last court case I was in, the judge weren't having anything of it at all. It was just escalated. The bearers come. I went, have you got a warrant with you? They went, yeah. I went, right. You can have peaceful possession of the property, because I'd already put a commercial lien on this guy, and in this commercial lien, which was bouncing about for about 14 months, as it's bouncing about, it's changing and all this. And it was, if you ever take me property, you automatically owe me £3 million because you haven't done this. 10 commercial maxims of law, blah blah blah. It didn't have any weight whatsoever in a court of law, because on the day that I went down to the Royal Court of Justice, I actually, there's an appeals office in there, not many people actually see. We only found it by chance, me and my wife. The next part of my story takes you into the appeals office, so I'll leave it for there. I've hit them with the Liam. Now, these people have given me 14 days to get the rest of my property out of my house. You know what I mean? I can go back in and arrange with the estate agent's agent, and that's how they're going to do it. So that's when I decided, and I knew on the 5th of May when I left the house that is exactly what I was going to do. So in that time that I had from the 5th, in the 14 days that I had, I went and got a lot of documents notarized. I went and put a lot of shit together and bounced it all about. On the 13th day, we'd arranged that we was going to pick our furniture up. My wife and my daughter went across the road. She said, they put shutters everywhere, all over the house. So she said, we need the back shutters off where the patio doors are to get the furniture out. They was in the house 10, 15 minutes. I phoned up. I went, are all the doors open? She said, yeah. I walked into the house. It was just an old guy who was all right. He said, are you Mr. McGarry? I went, yeah. I said, you're no trespassing. I said, there's some documents to hand to whoever you want to hand them to. I'd like you to leave the property, which he did do. 10, 15 minutes later, I've got the agents there, the estate agents. The police have now turned up. But I'm very confident in the documentation that I have. And the outcome happened exactly how I predicted it. They'd all drive away and have to put in for what was called a restitution warrant. I'd legally seized it back in terms that I couldn't use in court, but the terms that buy you time. You know what I mean? And you do have to buy time. And I'm still buying time to this very, very day. I've whacked this commercial in. All of a sudden, I got another eviction for the 30th of May. That's when the bailiffs turned up. Lovely sunny day. I told them they weren't allowed to leave. They tried to get police assistance and they couldn't get none, so they left. They came back to my house on the 2nd of July and said, we're evicting at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd of July. This is when the police are all there, the helicopters were there, the bailiffs were there. When I hit one of the bailiffs because he deserved it. He deserved it. This is now the 3rd of July. And that, you see it on the video, so I don't have to go into too much of it. But what people don't understand about that video is, and that must have been at about 11:30. These people turned up on my road, but opposite my house at around about 9:30. They'd already tried to get in once in front of 2 policemen, which I told them they couldn't do, and I got them out. And then it was a tit for tat for the next, forever how long it was. The outcome was the same. The police, after I hit him, the police then decided to intervene, take me away from the property. By that time, I knew that I'd lost the property, but I also had in the back of my mind that I was always going to get back into my property. I weren't really bothered. I'm then evicted. I'm evicted, so now I want to get back in. I do get back in the property because what happened is when I went down, while all this is going on, I've gone down to the Royal Court of Justice with my wife, and I sat in front of a master, and he was very nice, and this is no words, verbatim the words that he used. I said, my documents went missing, and the Ministry of Justice was responsible for them. And his actual words verbatim were, thousands of documents go missing every single week within the Ministry of Justice. And I went, so I lose my house, my home, because you lost my documentation. And he just shrugged. And my wife was sat at the side of me and she burst into tears. And I went, get up, we're going. And that's when we seen this little sign. And it was a very small wooden plaque on, it must be oak. And it went, appeals office. And I had an arrow going upstairs. And we went right up these bloody flight of stairs. And I'm looking for it, and there's another little sign, a big wooden door, and I've gone in. It's only a little tiny room, and there was a lovely black girl there. She went, "What's your problem?" I started telling her my case, and she could see my wife upset, and she see I was upset. So she listened to me for 10, 15 minutes. She says, "I'll go and have a word with the appeals judge," which was a woman she works for in the appeals office. So she buggered off in the back for about 10 minutes. Anyway, come back out. She went, Have you got all your documents with you?" I know I have, but they're all in my car. She said, "Well, the judge says she wants all your documents and she'll have a look through them. She can't look through them today. It might take a few days." And she literally went, "There's that many cases on her desk." So across the road, get the paper, shove it in, get a receipt for it all, come away. A week or so later, I got a reply from them. The appeals court judge thought there was grounds for me to appeal the decision, put it before a master upstairs, and a master actually wrote back to me, which was an attachment to go to the court, saying that all my avenues had not been exhausted, or the case is still ongoing. So what I did then is got my mate. He's a roofer. We got some ladders up. We went through my roof. They have an alarm system in there, which I weren't asked about that at all. We got in through my roof. The alarm went off, and then once again there is video evidence of the two policemen coming up and the odd shot of people. And I got the property back. I can't exactly remember that date. I think it might have been 29th or something like that. But anyway, I weren't in there very long, because what they did is then apply for another restitution warrant, which they turned up on the 1st of August. Now, I was sat in my property, and my daughter lives across the road. My daughter, Billy, with the blonde hair, she's got 2 young children. She actually came over to my house and said, "Could I watch the kids while I just nip up to Tesco?" So I said, "All right." Tesco's a 10-minute walk up the road from us. Maybe 20 minutes later, she's come bursting through the front door. Dad, they're here. And what had happened was, while she was in Tesco, while she was coming out of Tesco, she's seen the locksmith. Now, the locksmith, I think, were from Bury. They weren't from Wigan, but he'd been 3 times now, this guy. So as she's come out of Tesco, she's seen that there's police, there's the bailiffs, there's the shutter people, there's the agent, there's the locksmith. They've all met on the Tesco car park. So as she's come running into me, I've literally, now bearing in mind, and no word of a lie, we had barricades this time. Do you know what I mean? So they could have drilled the locks if they wanted to, but that's all they were going to do. But my daughter's come in, flapping, she's very, very, very hot-headed, trying to put the barricades up, and I went, "Look, the kids are here." So I literally walked out, and on the video I actually say, "You haven't served me an eviction notice. You haven't served me an eviction notice." And I went, "You can have peaceful possession in here today. There's children in here." And as I'm telling them this, my drive might be, 15 foot bloody long. I'm backing off, and my hands are up. And as I get to my door, that's when they absolutely snatch me, which is actually going to get them into an awful lot of trouble. They're just waiting for the wrath of my tail.
Russ, can I just stop you there a second?
You can, mate.
We've just had a question in from the chat room, and it's from a guy, I believe he's a good friend of yours. It's from Rob Freeman. And Good evening, Rob. And Rob's asking, can Russ please explain what a restitution warrant is used for those who are not aware?
Right, what a restitution warrant is, another warrant of possession is a warrant of possession. Oh. If you get back into that property, they have to go back to the claimant has to put an application to the court, and that then becomes a restitution warrant. I found some very good case for it in me while I was looking into things for the assault on these bailiffs, and I found out it came from Liverpool County Court, and it was from a restitution warrant, and it was a guy called Mr. Toohey, I think his name was. He was very similar to me. He was made bankrupt, wouldn't leave it. I weren't made bankrupt, by the way, but he got made bankrupt, but he vowed he weren't going to lose his house. They slung him out once, he got back in. They went to use force, but they didn't use force. And there's we know why they can't use force. When they're using this force now, it's so illegal what they're doing, and now we know the words to use and the right notices to serve on these people. But a restitution warrant is it's another order made by a judge, which backs up the possession warrant. You know, but a restitution warrant clearly states in a restitution warrant. Not actually. I was speaking to one last night about grabbing hold of the. I asked for it from the 1st of August, the Her Majesty's Customs and Tribunal Services Bailiff Handbook. When you get that, it just opens. Well, they don't want you to have that book. You know, it's a really, really good book. But that's what a restitution warrant is. So they came back with the restitution warrant, dragged me out of the house and put handcuffs on me from behind. While this is going on, the bailiff, the head bailiff, Mr. Conway, he comes walking over to me, and he's got some paper in his hand, and he starts reading me my rights. I flicked a bit, and I went, look, you do not read me rights. I said, this one here, the copper at the side, and this copper here can read my rights, but not you. So he threw it off, but as he's going to turn around, he shoved some paper in my pants pocket. Anyway, the police then fired me off to Wigan, threw me in a cell. No interview, no nothing. Threw me in a cell, and also threw my neighbour in a cell, who actually grabbed hold of the bailiff once the bailiffs had grabbed hold of us. We both got charged with breach of the peace.
Section 5 covers everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was a straight. See, I wouldn't mind a Section 5 because I was talking to Andy about it last night. Is my perspective on fighting these people now is respect statutes and acts, because that's where we're getting results in courts now, understanding them, you know, and stuff like that. But anyway, they've shoved these papers into my pocket. I didn't have my reading glasses on all that day, so I couldn't read it. When I got home and I read them, got charged. I got put in front of the magistrate in the afternoon, who asked me, well, they begged us to, you know, just be bound over. No, not guilty. They've read out 2 police statements, which well, when you look at the video footage and look at the statements, it's like, are they from the same day? Are they from the same street? Because it's nothing like it. It got I went not guilty, and it got booked in for a 3-day trial start. I think it was the 3rd or 4th of October. It's 8 weeks down the line. That was a very interesting case, and this is where it all starts knitting together. Where I've done it now. It's in all the paperwork, and the only thing I can't talk about is where I'm going with the police officers now, through the investigation, through the professional standards. I would advise anybody to go and get, if you've got any claim against police or bailiffs or anything like that, certainly the police, get in touch, make a complaint, get the professional standards to go and do a thorough investigation, even though mine actually said restricted investigation. I've asked them an awful lot of questions. Why is it restricted? You know what I mean? It shouldn't be. It's there's no reason for it to be restricted. But what we did prove on August the 1st, bearing in mind on the 3rd of July there was 18 police officers in attendance with the helicopter, and then on the 1st of August there was 12 officers, and they came equipped with all the video equipment this time. They knew exactly what they were doing. We're just going to go in, quick snatch grab, get him away, which was, it turned out, was a very bad idea by them altogether. But that's how it is, you know. And all of a sudden, from trying to, you know, like I said, I didn't know these people anymore. I didn't have, you know, I look at every case I look at a lot of people's cases, and I have done for the last couple of years. And you've got to look at every single case with its own individual merit. You can't put my case and go, it's got similarities to Tom's. You can't put Tom's and say it's got similarities to say Guy's, or the many, many, many dozens of other people who lost their home in the last couple of years. We've got to look at things totally different. We've got to pick away. And one thing, I was screaming 18 months, there's no justice in this system, there's no justice. It's all corrupt, they're all wankers. You know what I mean? I was wrong. Yeah. I was wrong. There is remedy. Do you know what I mean? It's just we've got to learn that remedy. And the remedies are there. I was telling Andy, anybody. I seen a little note in Liverpool Crown Court. I like drifting around the places in there you're not supposed to go. And on a board where the solicitors and the judges have their dinners and all that, there's a little notice, and it says any student studying law, go and ask at the reception if they've any available books. And I went down, and every time I go now, I get them for me. He's laughing. Got to get them for everybody now. And
all the books.
yeah, exactly. But go on.
Just go back to Rob Freeman apparently wanted to know about what restitution warrants actually were. Have you covered that?
Well,
to actually break down what they are.
Well, a restitution basically is a restitution warrant. Dazzy saying I haven't broken it down, but basically what a restitution warrant is, it's just a backup. It's a backup to the original possession order, because there's still arguments out there. I had an argument, because my argument was they handed me my house on the 5th of May, which is what I did. When they come, I went, have you got a warrant? They went, yeah. I went, great, there's the keys, and we walked away. You know what I mean? So as far as I was concerned, that was null and void. I told you the reasons why I did that, because I thought I had a valid commercial lien. It was a valid commercial lien to me. You go and try and get it validated down at the Royal Court of Justice or in any court, really. It's not easy. I've not done it. You know what I mean? I've tried my bloody best. And if you're going to put a lien on, we've got to stop putting in these ridiculous amounts of money. You know, it's another problem that the movement's tripping themselves over. It's like the notice in a tax list, you know, five grand notice. Take that out and put one in for 90 quid. You've got a good argument then in court. You know what I mean? It's just the way that me, Daz, Ken, a few of us are trying to, well, not saying that we're evolving, we're learning it. There's 4,000 statutes and acts we can break. You know what I mean? The arguments about consent, over 3,900 of them we'll all consent to. It's only certain ones that we won't consent to. You know, weird as it sounds. I've found that statutes and acts are helping us out in court an awful lot. And I'm surprised, because we're in court more than the local solicitors firms, you know what I mean? I mean, we have jokes now, because especially when they're on strike, we go in and try to take the cases. But it's all for fun. It's all for fun.
I completely understand what you mean when you say that you can find solutions within the system itself.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, you really need to be able to do that, because that's the game they're playing, and they don't want to play any other games.
Yeah.
So if you might go in and say, I want to play this game, they're saying, well, no, that's not the game that we play here. This is the game we play here, and you're going to acquiesce to that.
Yeah. But there's, you know, one thing that we have found, and a lot of people, I mean, one of the reasons we don't go to many meetings anymore is because, and I can only categorically say, I can show you an order from the Royal Court of Justice. I'll tell you what it is, get it out of their jurisdiction as quick as you can. Take it out of their jurisdiction altogether, but take it out there with courtesy. Take it out there being nice with them. Take it out there, you know. One thing I've learned, that the most powerful thing that we've got is we're litigate. You know what I mean? There's people on the scene who were litigate, who have gone and furthered their education, who are now members of the bar. You know what I mean? But that's it. Your game's over. You can't do what I can do in a court. I was at a meeting with Danny Banfin last summer. I think you was there. And the one in Bolton, well, Danny Banfin was there, and we were just talking.
That's right.
We were there, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I think there was only me and Daz who actually had a word with him really that day. But one of the words I did say to Chris started coming out with that. I went, Danny, I'm not being funny, mate. I will spank you in a court. I can say things you cannot say. I don't give a fuck how many bars you got or medals. I can say what I want in a court, as long as I say it correctly. You know what I mean? And I have never mentioned, like I say, I'm happy to be a 1% shareholder of the United Kingdom PLC. I'm happy to be part of a corporation. I spent many years researching how to get rid of this, what everybody's going on about the legal fiction. And one really, really worrying thing to me right now in the movement in a whole, before I spoke to Andy last night, a guy was trying to get in touch with me. I phoned him last night and he went, I want a bit of advice. Tomorrow, I'm going to the police station. I'm going to report a judge. And in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to go to court. I'm going to arrest him. I'm going to put him in the cells. Well, hang on a minute, mate. If you want my advice, don't bother. I said, because there's only you going in the cells. You know what I mean? No, I've seen these notice boards, the legal fiction. And I don't know who's putting these notice boards up, mate, but as far as I'm concerned, after hearing that man who was going to lose his house back in the summer, at the end of the summer...
By the way, I'd say you should actually mention that this guy, we went up to stop an eviction, and you actually got in touch with the agent and the...
the bailiff, the agent, the solicitors on the bank.
And actually talked sense to the guy and got him back in his house because he had the money to pay, he could clear his arrears, and the guy wasn't on the street the week after.
Yeah.
And then he starts to buy into this Cater Gaia legal name stuff and seems adamant he wants to go down the same path of putting his house and his home in jeopardy yet again. It's only because Russ talked sense to the guy and got on with the agents and arranged payments that this guy was in his house.
I got him reduced payments.
Yeah.
You know, it scares me that it scares me. And the guy talked with passion to me last night, and he was going, "Yeah, but I can't live with this fraud." You know what I mean? And I'm like, we all have to live with this fraud. Unfortunately, we all have to live with it. But I do not know who's going around these towns. There's one in Preston. I think there's about 10 now up around the country. Who's putting them up?
No idea.
I'm not bothered about. No idea. Well, you know, shrills, trolls, legal government agents, all them. Doesn't bother. I'm not interested. You know, I'd rather sit in a room full of trolls, mate, to be perfectly honest with you.
Russ,
I'd give them a good slap round.
Yeah, Russ, did you say that's Dazza that's joined you?
Yeah, Daz, yeah.
Oh, yeah, welcome, Daz. If you could possibly get a little bit nearer Russ's mic, because you're just a little bit faint in the background, that's all, mate.
Yeah. I'm not getting that close to him.
Yeah.
Oh, well. He don't look that scary to me.
No. But, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'll just quickly try and move on to where we are. Like I said, on the 1st of August, I got charged with 2 assaults, which is ridiculous. I never got arrested by the police. I never got... on the 1st of August, I got arrested with a breach of the peace. 2 months on bail. Now, all the time while I'm on bail, on the Tuesday morning, that was on the Friday, I phoned up Crown Prosecution Northwest Services. Now, Crown Prosecution Services Northwest didn't have any idea of me, anything about me charge, didn't know I was on bail, didn't know nothing. I put it down that they might be just a few days behind. Cut a long story short, I phoned them a lot, a dozen times, all recorded. Even the day before I was in court, which I think it was the 3rd of October, so it would have been the 2nd, I phoned up Crown Prosecution Northwest and I'm supposed to be in court tomorrow. There's no record here of you being in court. Great. So I got to court and my name's... In fact, our name weren't on the board. As we got there, they called us straight in first. So me and my friend's gone in. The prosecution... This is the breach of the peace.
Breach.
Yeah, breach of the peace. The prosecution stood up. We've got no evidence to show, no case to answer. The judge turns to me and he went, "Mr. McGarry, you're free to go." And I went, "Well, before we go, I'd just like to clear something up." And he said, "What's that?" And I pointed to the prosecution. I said, "You, sir, who are you representing today in court?" He said, "I'm representing the Crown Prosecution." I said, "Could you please tell the court on the record why, up until yesterday, the Crown Prosecution had no idea I was here?" You know what I mean? And what I said, category proves that there's been a tacit agreement. Since I upset that judge, because in Wigan courts, the magistrates is on the 2nd floor, the county and family courts are on the 3rd floor. They all go to the same meetings on Wednesdays and Thursdays, these people, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Don't upset judges, because they all walk with limps. You get one of them, they're limping, and they drag you down with it. So basically... that's what happened, but I got them into what I claimed is they actually took it personal to where the bailiffs were meeting the police at the police station, giving a briefing. The courts, I'm charged with offences that the Crown Prosecution haven't got any idea of. I'm charged with offences that the Crown Prosecution haven't seen the case. This is the 2 times assaults on the bailiffs. No police interviews again. Obviously, it's a private criminal prosecution by the Ministry of Justice. It's crazy, but it just shows by upsetting one judge. I should have just walked out of there that day. You know what? If I walked out and thanked her, my appeal would have gone through. and I've not even gone into the things with an appeal, like they were reading out the wrong terms and conditions. They weren't even my terms and conditions. They've admitted that I paid £1,600 plus too much. It was always that. I think I could have won it.
Appeal back under the same judge.
Yeah, oh yeah, and that's it. You know, they're making you appeal back to the same bloody. Why are they going to appeal when they're found against you? It's absolutely corrupt. But that's what it is, and we just put up a big argument. I'm not going to go into this stuff with the police. Someone put a post off a couple of weeks ago, and everyone seems to think that it has. It's been on the simmer for a long time. It's been took out. It's been parcelled out, and it's been delivered now. We're just waiting for the outcome of it. But we're going back to my property. My house and my property is still open, even though my house has been sold twice. You know, well, it's been sold once, and it's up for sale again. It did get sold. The contract agreed signs were up, and then I hit them with buyer beware. I took them in notice, and since October it's been off the market. So it's been there. I've left the court as it is because I've got to take the police on first. Because the beauty of it is they can't. It's all right them saying that, this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, you should have been there because the fucking case is still open. Forgive my French, you know what I mean? And I've got paperwork now to prove that all avenues weren't exhausted. You know, there was other routes for me, legal routes for me to go down, which were denied by me. Now, how I got that back open, my house back open, was very, 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 very simple. I actually quoted Article 12 of my human rights, which an arbitrary judgment was made against me. And this blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I had other bits and bats on there. As soon as I went, I was saying to yourself, Andy, last night, when I went down and met Master McLeod, who reopened all my case, I didn't take no paperwork. I'm said I'm here because I've had human rights is breached. I can't get into court. I can't go through the normal procedure to get into the human rights, which is basically you've got to go through every little layer, right through to the fucking Supreme, to where they're going, you've got no rights. Then you can actually take it on, unless you've actually had a huge tort that's proven against you. It's just the way that it's overstepped, you know what I mean? And how quickly that it does. And how quickly she knew exactly what I was saying. You know what I mean? I have evidence here going, look, I never got the lawful administration of justice, and that's all I wanted, that is all I required. But you didn't give it me. You know, I've had 3 judges now, two judges, one judge has signed the original possession order, and I've had 2 judges now sign restitution warrants against me. 3 different judges. I've also had judges the judge in Liverpool who was writing to me saying that the documentation has not been put in on time, and this, that, and the other. So there's 4 judges. I only ever seen one. I only ever went in one hearing. I never got an appeal, and there was grounds for the appeal. Bang, solid grounds for the appeal. Do you know what I mean? Transcripts to back up. I'm just telling people that, you know, as angry as these people get us in court, put a smile on your face, bite your lip, and walk out of there. Look, fight another day. You know what I mean? And it is emotional, of course. They're horrible, horrible places. But we're getting to the point, and we're enjoying it because they're squirming now. You know, we're going in with their law boots, going, hang on a minute, fuck you. There's a quote. You want to read it? Would you like a copy? Can we get it? You also go get some copies printed out for you if you don't. And it's working, but people have got to start using the human rights. And lots and lots and lots of people turn around and go, they don't work because of Article 13. What people really don't understand about Article 13, it actually proved that they haven't got clean hands. And when you know the doors to get out of Parliament and over into Europe, you know what I mean? And even when you get to Europe, they're going to start trying to blast you off there. But there's another key and there's another door, and you've got to open put that key in that lock to open that door to get to the Universal Declaration. Now, bear in mind, if you take this government for anything in the European, if you do a bit of research and look at success rates of the individual claimants against the British government in the European in the European Court of Human Rights, the Parliament's got a very, very, very small win rate. It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. You know what I mean? Basically, that's what it is. So that's where we've got to start getting our claim. That's where we've got to start making our claims and take it out of their jurisdiction. And if we can't take it out of their jurisdiction, then we've got to start reading more books. We've got to start learning the game that they play. And we've all got to start becoming this person who is litigator, because the litigator person is the most powerful person in the court. The litigator person can direct the court. It can control the court. You know, and like I said to you, Andy, on that, I'll play a few of the clips. It's bullshit. It weren't me sure. In the end, I was trying all sorts, and I'm thinking, this is easy. You know what I mean?
To get anywhere, Russ, you have to be relentless, don't you? Because they don't have to play by their own rules, and they never do anyway.
You
have to play by every single one that they have. So you have to be relentless, and I've got to take my hat off to you, because you're a real encyclopedia of information. And I mean, this hour's just like, this first hour's just like completely flown. So
my God, it has, yeah.
So, but that's the big thing in it, is that is the better that you can get at playing their game, the more chance. But again, you have to be relentless. But it's people like you that are going to break through all the bull.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one thing that sorry, what? Go on, Andy?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Russ, we're near the end of the first hour. Would this be a good time to have a wee break so we can all make a brew, get another can out, skin up, whatever you want to do?
Sweet.
Okay. I've got this one because this is from our resident rock star, Ken. I'm not sure if he's listening tonight because he's got a very early start in the morning. But if he's not, he'll be hearing it on the podcast and he'll have a chuckle. I just thought we've got to play this for Russ. Back in a few minutes.
Playing this.
I turned the bailiff, but I did not hit no policeman. Oh no. I said I turned the bailiff, but I didn't hit no policeman. Garden, they're trying to break the door. They want to steal my possessions, 'cause a banker man, he wants more. But I say, I'm in the bailiff, but I swear it was in self-defense. I chin the bailiff, and they say it is a violent offense. Bailiff man always hated me. He wanted to make me go. And I asked for the warrant, he just smirked, and then he just said no. I chinned the bailiff, but I swear it was in self-defense. I say I chinned the bailiff, but I swear it was in self-defense. He was a big boy. For 25 years I paid my way. The banker, he want more. Bailiff man says I can't stay. He's breaking down the door. I can't take no more. In that bailiff, but I did not hit no policeman. Oh, no. I chinned the bailiff, but I did not hit no policeman. My reflexes got the better of him. took him down. He's out to lunch. I don't took one punch.
Simpson, and you're listening to peoplesinternetradio.com, one of the major voices of truth in our world.
Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the Tuesday evening edition of Raconteurs News with myself, Andy Young, Jason Holmes, as usual, and the one and only Russ McGarry, a very popular guest. I noticed while we've been listening to those tunes there, the first one, the look on Russ's face when I first played it to him just before we started was priceless, especially when it gets, but only in self-defence. I noticed Wesley Ahmed signed into the chat room and he's asking how Russ is. You're still muted, Russ.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I hope you're doing really well, Wes. How are you keeping, mate?
Yeah, Wes is great.
Good, I hope.
Wes has got the distinction of he's been the only guest we've had on who's got our show actually banned from being played in North America. Wes came on and talked about deaths in police custody, and I got several messages from listeners in North America saying that the YouTube video was banned over there for some reason. But funny enough, YouTube didn't tell me about that.
Anyway, you keep on the good work, my friend. You keep on the good work.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people like yourself and Wes that are out there doing brilliant work. One thing that I feel might be worth raising, and it's something that I've seen happening so much lately. We're getting so much of this bloody infighting lately, and you know, rather than people just agree to disagree, you've got a different point of view to me. I'll go and stand somewhere else or listen to somebody else. They don't. They set out to destroy somebody's life just because they disagree with them, and it's just doing nobody any good, and it's just taking us all further away from where we're trying to get, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's another one of the reasons that we've stopped going to the regular meetings that we was regulars at, is because, I hate to say it, but some people, like we're saying, I mean, the guy was on about before, the guy who I spoke to last night, who's seen these billboards and he wants to go arresting judges and everything. Wesley was at that eviction with me and Dazza and a dozen or so other good people. Now, Wesley, I'll tell you, he was a relieved man when we left, and Wesley was going to get on the phone. It weren't just me, you know, there was a few of us there who were all capable of keeping these people away from the door. He came around, but after getting that call off him last night, off seeing these billboards, which are just taking people back to, it's a fraud. My God, you know, people are going to really get in trouble. And that man, you know, if he gets another eviction notice, they'll go over. But eviction notices are pointless, as proved with mine. They just turn up. As proved with Tom Crawford's, they just turn up. As proved with, freaking hell, how many's Wesley been on? That they, we go to them, days later they turn up, and there's nothing you can do. In a way, we are, as certain people have stated over the internet, in a way, with the new age bailiffs, we're adding costs in a way. Because the outcome is always the same.
They get more money.
They get more money. And what do we not want them to have? Any money, but unfortunately, certain people, certain groups aren't looking at other alternatives of beating these people. And like I said, they're all beatable. There's remedy in law. You just got to find it.
It's a bit like if you got a parking fine.
You have to get a bit closer. Yeah, I'll pull this over.
It's a bit like if you do get a parking fine or something, you can keep contesting it and run with it, causing all sorts of issues if you're taking all your energy up. But there's nothing to say if you pay the thing, you can't go after them for whatever was incorrect in the first place. It's not over just because you've kept them quiet by paying. You can still go and serve documents on them. You can still take them to court for false claims and all the rest of it. If you've paid under duress or anything like that, it's just a different fault. We need to go in as the claimants rather than going in as the defendants all the time.
I'm going to have to charge that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we need what we need rather than all the infighting is if you don't agree with somebody, I think what you need to do is you need to be able to recognise another warrior, somebody else who's in that fight, no matter what their methods are, whether you disagree with them or not. But like you say, I mean, there are some people whose methods, or what they would suggest you do, can get people into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
And you can escalate things all out of proportion for what's necessary, and at the end of the day, your energy is better spent somewhere else than lining these other people's pockets and legitimising the work.
Well, my property, right? I told you it was an £8,000 loan. Let's just say that they were correct, saying I still owed them £5,000 and odd pound. They sold it for the minimum amount that they could possibly satisfy themselves. And they run up cost of 81,000 quid. Right. So there you go. The total cost of day one to where we're up to now is £81,000. Allegedly. Now they sold me my house for 81 grand. Now bearing in mind when I took out the loan in 2004, I had to get it valued. It's valued at £135,000 then. It's wrong, but we're not going to.
It's a scam.
Yeah, it's a good scam. And so, come on, we are realistic. We have to scam. We've been putting the life of generations of us have been putting the life of poverty. We have to learn to scam. Unfortunately, the scam is going the wrong way. Like Daz said, the perfect example. People come to me about parking tickets, and I go, "Oh, if you don't want to pay it, don't pay it. You can do it this way, that way, and that way. It's up to you." But to be perfectly honest with you, we've sat and we've had these discussions. We have blazing arguments. I mean, blazing arguments amongst ourselves. But like Dad said there about, let's just say it's a parking ticket, and they want 60 quid off you. Right? You know that you know they're wrong, and you know that you can prove them right. Your best thing to do is pay them, and then take them bastards to court. Start asking for what, and they start after giving us, because we do become the claimant. And it's not about the size of the victory. How small it is what it is. I mean, but when you're on the back foot, when you're being attacked, whether it's through mail, looking at magistrates, looking at district judges, or whatever way we're being attacked, that's not the way that any of us are going to win them fights.
It's much harder to fight it in dishonour and being a defendant than going on the, I wouldn't say attack, but certainly asking for legitimacy over the claim in the original. Yeah. Which is what we need to start claiming, which we need to start looking at, rather than putting ourselves in pressure and being thrown out of houses. But my biggest problem is the fact most people are going into this and doing the same mistakes over and over again, expecting different results. Using the same methods, expecting different results.
But the results
not happening.
Always the same.
Well, that was Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you just
He's
got to look at this,
absolutely right.
and this is exactly what's going on all the time. And people are not willing to use the correct tools or the toolbox, and even do some absolute basic research on what the actual words and what they're being accused of and what they actually mean. Number one for that is assault. You know, I've been trying to get it out for some time over what assault actually is. And
I've got a police companion with me.
yeah, well, I've been telling everybody to go and buy them because they're super cheap on the internet.
You can download one on your phone. I've got one on my phone. You can download it. If you go onto Google Play, it's free. It's called Police Companion, and it gives you all the definitions and the powers of arrest and all those sort of things.
Well, the police operational handbooks, you can get them for as little as a couple of pound off eBay. Different years, well worth buying. Great sections on human rights at the beginning. Assault, they are using it in order to justify the use of force against them because they haven't got an excuse to use force. You cannot write primary legislation which is based on the use of force. It can only be done under secondary legislation. Bylaws, you could almost say.
Yeah.
Because if force is in the primary legislation, then it can't be consensual. It's an interesting thing is the fact that assault, and this is what people really need to get in the head, is the fear of physical violence. It is not anything physical.
They separated it with the battery.
But it used to be
assault and battery.
They won't charge you, they don't run with battery because they're scared to death of having to quantify the use of the force itself. So any assault charge that you're being up against is somebody's presumed that you've threatened them or they believe they feel intimidated or threatened or anything like that. Well, if they've misconstrued what you was actually saying or doing, apologise. Because if there's nothing physical in it, and that's what they're going after with assault charges all the time, punched in the face to say it's assault. And yet it quite clearly says is assault is the fear of physical violence, not physical violence itself, which is battery. Battery is they're having to quantify actual force and use it. And they can't do it. They've sidestepped it. They want to try and use this fear in order for the police and other people to use force against you. And you argue in the wrong points in court, saying I didn't assault him. You know, it hit me. You know, it's just not. It's so wrong.
When everybody's shouting there, and you've got police around, we're all shouting assault, assault. What do the police do? Nothing.
Yeah, you know,
shout battery and watch the reaction.
Watch the faces drop. I've actually, I've seen the panic in a couple's face when I've actually said that's not assault, it's battery.
Well,
and they do no difference.
Yeah, I did notice.
On my police.
Sorry, Jason. Go ahead, mate.
I'm just saying on my police companion, I've got 4 different types of assault. It says assault by penetration. Will not go there.
Well, your manual's wrong. You need to go and look at the actual law because the actual law says assault is the fear of physical violence. Now, if you're actually being penetrated, that's battery. If, for instance, your coat is on the back of a chair and somebody walks into a pub who doesn't like it, picks it up and throws it on the floor, that's battery. If somebody walks into a pub who knows you, though you've had an argument and set to with in the past, and walks in, and be being intimidated, there's the fear. That's the assault.
Right.
This is how many cases have been put through the courts continually with a wrong charge. Because I'll tell you now, go and look at where it says.
I've just got a definition here, right? It says an assault is an intentional or reckless act which causes a person to apprehend immediate unlawful force or personal violence. Yeah. So again, like that's what you said. That's the threat.
Before anything physical.
And a battery is an intentional or reckless infliction of unlawful force or personal violence. Consequently, a battery may include an assault. Battery can be committed indirectly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which backs up what you're saying. The assault part is.
You need to hold these people to account in the law.
To the word of the law.
When a policeman takes a step back, that's when he's saying, I've been assaulted. When he gets back and calls on his radio, I need assistance, there's the assault. Right. And then they're using that as an excuse to use violence against you.
The only excuse in law to assault anybody is self-defence.
And self-defence, by the way, covers me defending myself, defending somebody else, or their property, or my property. I have absolute right for self-defence, which is any act of statute can only ever be broken with a lawful excuse. Acts and statutes are law, so there's one for you. To actually break these things, you need lawful excuse. Above lawful excuse is justification. If you've got justification, which is self-defence generally, it's the only time that you're justified in using any sort of violence or battery as such.
Self-defence, or there is another one in there, it's necessity as well.
Necessity is basically the same thing, you know. Necessity is the same, you know, if it's necessary to do something. It was necessary for you to steal food in order to feed your family. It's a lawful excuse. Yeah.
We're in 12:15. Did I cut your hand off?
You could call it a justification, you know.
Yeah.
Well, justification is the higher form. It's the one that they want to avoid. If you're at a red light, you go through a red light, you've broken the law. You've broken the acts and statutes, the Highways Act.
I had this with
but the bike. If you can hear a siren behind you that you presume is an ambulance and trying to get through, and you go through that red light in order to let something pass, you've got lawful excuse of why you did your actions. Yeah. And that's a real problem for them. And the government every time they apply the laws to you, certainly when they're using force, so enforcement officers, they're all being known and termed now. The reason that they're passing this terminology over to them is to get them believe that they have a right to use force, to act outside the bounds and powers of the jurisdiction, to give them the ego boost that believes they can apply force to people when in fact they can't, and the government can't legislate that. The only time a government can actually apply and use force if the government itself has lawful excuse to do so. Because lawful excuse works two ways. They need a lawful excuse in order to break the law, in the same way as we do.
And the only lawful excuse they could possibly use is national security.
In some ways.
Which is exactly the same as us to private security.
But they want this big society, this common purpose type thing, to believe that because they're called enforcement officers, they actually are allowed to use force against you. But the only time you can use force is the saving of life and limb, protection of property of another, self-defence, and in order to prevent an actual crime from being committed.
And even then, it's to be reasonable and
proportional, which is why they don't want to deal with battery and things like that, where they've actually got to look at the proportionality of force, which in a statutory court, in front of a magistrate, is going to be really particularly difficult to do, especially if you claim self-defence, because when you're doing that, you really should be on indictment, and it should be in front of a jury.
It was like the old farm. Do you remember the old farmer who shot the gypsy kid? That the gypsies was breaking into his farm, and he ended up shooting him with a shotgun.
That's Tony Martin.
Yeah. You know what his lawyer never told him to actually walk into that court and go, it was self-defence? Because if you've got a knife, or if Darren's got a knife...
His problem was he actually shot one of them who was trying to run away.
Yeah, but even still... Then again, it's preempted. They broke into his property five times.
There are a lot of...
But basically, what self-defence... Even you can kill people lawfully in this country.
Yeah, of course you can.
There is lawful excuse for murder. You know, if
it's not murder, you know, lawful excuse for murder. Your men's rage, a guilty man.
Yeah. But if Darren's got a knife, and he's got a knife, and it's a sharp knife, and he's going, I'm going to fucking kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. If I pull a gun out and shoot him dead, even if I empty a clip of 10 rounds, have I got lawful excuse to do it? I have.
No.
Can I just tell you why?
This is what it's like regular.
Yeah, we have these debates amongst ourselves. The reason why it is because a gun can misfire, right? A gun can miss. If you've got a knife with the intention of killing me, the chances of you missing me is very, very slim. The chances of you actually hitting me, and there's a good possibility that it's an artery, a major organ, because we're full of them, and could kill me. I know this for a fact, and I'll say this because this morning when I was waiting for Kenticle for us to go to court, I watched a very good YouTube channel, Liverpool John Moores University, and if you type it on YouTube, it's it came under human rights and police powers. That's what it's actually called. It's on YouTube, Human Rights and Police Powers. If you type that in, it'll come up. And he gave the scenario. Now, bear in mind, this guy was a copper for 20 years. He then studied law. Now he's a lecturer at the university. And that's what it was. A knife can't miss. So you've got lawful excuse to kill him.
Yeah, but only in prevention.
Only in prevention,
not in the intention.
Yeah, you can't go and I'm going to kill him because he's got a knife.
To kill.
But if you've got a knife and you are making a threat to me and I've got to defend myself, I can shoot you with the tank.
But you really would have to be proportionate.
Yeah.
Lads, we don't want you to act this one out and just test your theories, please.
This is very restrained.
Yeah.
Well, this is how you work through these things, and you bounce ideas and you start to see. But some basic reading on the words that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Don't take it for granted what something means. Just go and look up some basic that causes the most amount of harm and distress, such as the word jurisdiction.
Yeah. Can you see that? It's one book none of us bother buying because we're too busy trying to get black laws. It's called the Oxford Dictionary of Law. Now, it's got a nice little bit of promotion here on the top, and it actually says, if legal language is a fog, this is a valuable flashlight. Right now, I've only had this since the weekend. I've not put it down. But I think Wesley might be, because we only came across it. You look at harassment. Harassment goes into all sorts, but then you've got what's called the harassment of debtors. I'll see if I can read this out. Right? Harassment of debtors, it actually comes under the Public Order Act of 1986. Behaviour designed to force a debtor or one believed to be a debtor to pay his debt. This is a criminal offence, punishable by a fine. If the debt is based on a contract, very, very nice little point there, and the nature or frequency of the act subjects the debtor or members of his household to alarm, distress or humiliation, harassment also includes harassment. Harassment also includes false statements or other that the debtor will face criminal proceedings or that the creditor falsely represents as being official. This offence may overlap with the crime of blackmail. You know what I mean? Now,
I'd certainly read that.
I reckon some of that might have, I think every 3 months they have an amendment of anything that's got to do with fucking beat the bailiffs and banks or anything like that. But there's a lot of power in these books, you know what I mean? There really is. We can only stay vulnerable for so long, we can only do this for so long. Mm-hmm. I think the secret of it all is become the claimant. Different ballgame,
Well, on the subject of that book, Russ, you showed me it last night, and the weird thing was, until 24 hours before you showed me it, I'd never seen it or heard of it. And strange enough, almost to the minute, 24 hours earlier, Danielle Williamson showed me that book and said, everybody needs one of these. I thought,
exactly.
Got to put it on my wish list on Amazon, I think.
Well, this is my new one for walking around with. Whenever we go to any shit with bailiffs or with police come, we take these. Oh, there's Dazzy's. And we take that. And I'm only interested in chapter 1, you know what I mean? I just want to make them police, know. And one thing you should always say to a policeman, before he starts being a smart ass or you, is before we continue with this conversation, please take out your notebook and jot down everything carefully, because this will be used and administered in the court of law. And that's what their handbooks are for, you know what I mean? But it's amazing how, when they know that you know a little bit, when you're quoting shit out of their operation.
A couple of things that's...
The Magistrate's Operational Handbook, that's very good as well. There's only one copy. Daz bought it. I've had it, and no Ken's got it.
Yeah, apparently disclosure is known as advanced information. Yeah. And that's what you should be asking for, which also covers the venue. So what venue would be and whether you consider the venue to be the correct one for you to be tried in. So advanced information looks quite interesting in the Magistrate's Handbook. There's a couple of things. If people are interested in human rights, without pulling the faces and getting a bag on over, there's a couple of things that need to be mentioned. Is in the police operational handbooks, they're actually told to take particular notice of Section 6 of the 1998 Human Rights Act, which isn't the article, it's the section itself. Most of the interesting information is in the sections. And Section 6 actually states that it is unlawful for a public authority to act in a way which is incompatible with a convention right, and this includes a failure to act. Now, if the police are being warned to take particular note of that section, I think people need to start reading it. I heard some stuff that Article 1, Article 13, because it's missing in the 1998 Act, makes it, non-applicable, and it doesn't work. But there's a section in the miscellaneous provisions called Section 11, and it's called Safeguarding of Existing Human Rights. Now, after doing a bit of digging, I found that the Lord Chancellor actually read this and did an interpretation of it. And basically, the gist of it is to say that the 1998 Human Rights Act is a minimum, a floor of rights. He actually used the words of floor. Doesn't mean all you've got. It means that when you're in the 1998, Section 11 actually allows you to step up to the ECHR. And in the ECHR, Article 53 is also called Safeguarding of Existing Human Rights. And what that's telling you is that the 1998 is subordinate to the ECHR, because that came before it. The ECHR is then telling you it's subordinate to the Universal Declaration. Now, they each deal with different capacities. The 1998 tends to deal with just the persons, be them legal and natural. The ECHR tends to deal with citizens, persons legal and natural. It even differentiates between them, as well as the everyone. It doesn't say, and the Universal Declaration generally deals with the human being. The interesting thing is when it talks about the everyone, it doesn't say the every two or every three. It's actually a claim of right for the individual, and it's up to the individual to claim the right as the everyone. That's a singular, not as under a democracy. So your rights are actually represented as a republic, as an individual member of society through the human rights. Mm-hmm. And Article 6 of the Universal Declaration says everybody has the right to be seen as a person before the law. Now, we can have a few hang-ups about persons, but the person basically says that, what it basically says is you have a right to be seen as a person. It's not a duty, and it's not an obligation.
And yet a lot of people, me included many years ago, it was the same. It's I'm the person. But I don't want to be seen as the person before the law, and that's why we don't win anything in these courts of law. You've got to be recognised as one.
You can be seen as a person at different times, but the fact is you don't have to be, and it's even in your Universal Declaration. But you've got to preempt these people. You've got to pre-notice. You've got to claim your rights and before the events. Otherwise, it looks like you're just complaining because you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. You know, if you're doing it after, it looks quite dishonourable. You do it before. You preempt and you pre-warn.
We got a comment in the chat room from Laurie, I think, and Laurie says, if you're chucking bullshit back at them, then you have recognised them. Not a good thing. Now, okay. I suppose you'd argue with that, yeah?
No, I just ignore it and treat it with the contempt it deserves.
Okay.
It means nothing to me, so you carry on. When you bring something to the table that actually works, I might listen.
Which is... I haven't seen one case yet, mate. I don't know what's happened to my screen here, by the way. It's gone really small. That's me trying to add a big call.
Yeah, I'm not interested in you know, they want to say I'm not the name, or they want to just keep using all the common law stuff, or the courts of record, and all the rest of it.
Okay, all right.
Work on international covenants. I'm not interested.
I was about. All right, then let's move on, because there was a question I wanted to ask you. How do you think? Do you think that people should learn themselves legalese and find out what words means? We were talking about that earlier on, you know, and what different words mean in different.
If anybody, you can trip yourself if you start using their words and their terminologies. But at the end of the day, it's about the intent that you put behind the word. It's what you mean it to mean. That's the interesting part. You know,
how are you supposed to know then what they mean by the word? if you don't know, if they use a word and you don't know what it means in legal, you think it means something completely different to what you believe.
There's no time constraints on these things, is there? In these court cases, you can actually ask what this means, clarify what point are you actually trying to make if there's something that's going to trip you up. But you do try and get pushed, and they do try and rush you.
Rob B is a master at it. I mean, we used to go to the meetings, and it was the bouncing of letters, and they'd send him a letter, and he'd just pick a word up, and he'd go defy it. I need the legal definition of that word, and he'd practically use 100 words off one piece of A4. You know what I mean?
The interesting thing is, if you're using words, make sure you know what they mean. Is more to my point. Is you're going to start banding about using words like jurisdiction or assault, or claiming things, you should have an full understanding of what that means or is likely to mean to them. And if there's something they're asking you that you don't understand, then ask. You know, we do get legal interpreters in the courts, unfortunately, and we can use them. In fact, I believe that's anything that solicitors probably useful for.
But I mean, you get legal interpreters, but I mean, if you don't know what they mean by that word and you think it means something completely different,
well, this is why you should ask. Yeah.
This is why being the litigant person is very, very. You've got to keep on stating. There is words that are very, very, very solid especially in a courtroom. One is I don't understand. And that is a word we can use in the courtroom. It's no good doing it to a couple when he's pulling, asking for your name.
You don't comprehend
what
you're saying.
You know, but if a court case cannot continue unless all parties understand where they're up to at that point. The reason why they can continue is because lots and lots of people go out there and they go and get a solicitor or a barrister, and they're good. They're all right, you know, you'll sit there and they'll sum up for you, and you should have got a lot worse, and that's what you're led to believe. But it's a controlled environment then. When you're the litigant parent, when you are the litigant person, it doesn't matter what words they use against you. I'm litigant, and be proud of it. Tell them, listen, I've not done this for 10 years. You know, I only started this on Sunday. I've had a quick look through the Oxford Dictionary, and I watched 2 YouTube channels. Give me a break here. But they have to do. You know what I mean? These are judges, not magistrates. They have to do it. You can, if you know what you're doing, you can control the tempo of the courtroom. You can control the mannerisms of the courtroom, and the only way that you can do that is by being litigant. When you are claiming that you're a freeman on the land, you're not being litigant. You're actually saying, I know more about the law than you. That is bringing controversy into a courtroom. That's what they're looking for. That's where they're hammering us with. Controversy. What we think is important is controversy to them. You know, and so stop bringing controversies into the court. Bring argument into the court. Because you can bring argument into a court, and you've got to direct it through a judge. Can't argue with the prosecution, direct everything through him. But keep telling him who you are. Make sure he understands who you are. You know, I had 3 days of absolute... I couldn't believe it. I was just getting more and more ridiculous every day, asking for stuff. You know what I mean? But everything I asked for, I got. They tried to have the case thrown out that morning, saying that me bungle hadn't arrived again. And the DVD disc that I produced 26 days earlier couldn't be played on their DVD system. Well, that's not my problem. I've got a court order that said they had to be in for that time. You can't start playing them on the morning. You should have played them when you got them and let me know that they weren't playable, and I'd have made sure there was a device in this courtroom that would have played them. You know what the judge said after me arguing with for a good hour on it? He said, it's 10 to 11 now, so it started at 10. He said, it's 10 to 11 now, I'm going to adjourn it till X o'clock after dinner. You go home and get your laptop. And I went, I'm not going home. I went, I'm a private man. I said, and I've come here, and this is in a private venue. You know what I mean? I said, I'm not a child. You know what I mean? I'm my own master. And I am not going. I'm not doing nearly a 50-mile round trip to produce electronic equipment. I said, I've been on bail since August the 1st. We're now in April. You know what I mean? The following year. And it's just what you do. So words can be. I wouldn't be too pleased if you know that the person.
Yeah, something I found interesting that you mentioned last night, Russ. You said about people are afraid of going into the court, and you pointed out that the people who work in the court are not allowed to give you advice. But you did say that there is a way around that.
There is a word. and what's the direction?
I've actually had a feedback.
Are we getting feedback here?
Yeah, I can hear feedback. I've got it for a bit.
Let's see if I can move that back a bit.
It shouldn't make any difference. Yeah, when clerks, you ask them something and they try and sidestep the question by simply saying, I'm not here to give legal advice. But you turn around and say, I'm not asking for that, I'm asking for the direction, And
the law
which is what they're supposed to be doing. So clerks are there to give direction.
So it's our words that are important. We've got to learn words that work for us. We shouldn't be worried about what they're trying to work against us, and that's half the problem that's sneaking.
Another one that I just like to bring up. If anybody's handing, I remember a bit of a thing on the UK column and a few other people saying the police have been instructed not to read these paperwork being handed to them at the scene over these evictions and stuff like that. And it's actually quite right, because the police are not legally qualified, so they can't make determinations on the paperwork, and that's something that you need to ask them. I've actually done that with a sergeant and said, are you legally qualified to make a determination on that paperwork? To which he folded it back up and went, no.
That is one of the points of the 7 things that the police can't go into it too much, but that's one of the points. A sergeant, made a legal determination that my documentation wasn't right.
Well, they haven't got the capability to do it. In fact, they're not allowed to.
They're breaking the law, fucking doing it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it, breaking the law, doing it.
They're actually stepping outside the bounds of the jurisdiction, which is a criminal offence. It makes them personally and privately liable.
So then you're into the police and not police and criminal. The May 1st, 2015. What's it called?
Yeah, I've not really looked at that, but there's a possibility that would fit. But you start to look at misconduct in public office.
Criminal Justice Act, innit?
That's it.
One thing I would say, if anything,
Court and Criminal Justice Act, 2001 it was.
A really important thing I've been trying to get people to look at is a place called R.M.B. Romeo Michael Bravo Consulting. It's a website set up by an ex-policeman, and solicitors and a few others that's fighting a lot of road traffic things. But if you go to their own page, you can scroll down their own page. Now, this particular site's got a fantastic section on misconduct in public office and a good explanation on it as well. But if you scroll down their own page, and I think it's you go to the 1st of March 2013, there's not many pages, just scroll down. It actually talks about local authorities and public authorities cannot be charged, and the police cannot take the complaint of fraud against local authorities. It's a very interesting article. It's well worth reading. Apparently a letter went out from the Home Office to instruct the police and several others that they are not to take the accusation of fraud as recorded as a crime against public officials. So it can only be recorded as misconduct in public office. And most of the time the police are actually telling you that this is a civil matter, not a criminal. But if you are confronted in a station, you want to make a complaint, if any officer says that to you, they're making a legal determination of which they're not qualified to do. So if you want to get your complaint heard, bring that matter forward, because the next thing you know, the sergeant will be in, and he's not legally qualified to make that determination either. You will get your complaint placed in. I'm not saying the CPS or somebody won't go and sidetrack it, but if you go in claiming fraud, they won't record it. If you go in claiming misconduct in public office, they'll try and fob you off, tell you it's a civil matter, not a criminal matter. They've not got the power or the qualifications to make that determination. You need to tell them that. You will get your complaint in.
Right. We've got something coming from the chat room. It's from Slim Boy, a.k.a. Patrick. And Patrick's asking, with dwelling theft and parking fines, fixed penalty notices, etc., are these not civil matters? If so, why are the police getting involved in civil matters?
Basically, to cut a long story short, Greater Manchester Police Force in 2013 became a private company. It actually comes under Greater Manchester
Combined Authority.
Or in pension fund or private authority. They are. Let's get real. We do know what
corporations.
fantastic information put out about the corporate name and the corporate. They are corporations. Corporations have shareholders. Shareholders don't give a shit whether we live, die, we get put in jail, or whether we win the lottery, as long as they get their share.
Well, the thing is, as well, if you don't know your rights, you don't claim your rights. You got them.
To the guy there, all I can honestly say is if any police authority or anybody who thinks they've got authority, there's 2 boots you need. I'll throw that one in because you're most going to get that for nothing if you get them. My one of them, it was 87p off eBay. I paid £2 to have it delivered next day because I was going on my holidays the day after and I wanted a boot to read. So it cost me less than £3. Don't read it all. You will start reading it all, especially about all the dodgy shit that goes on here. The magic mushroom section's brilliant. You just go to chapter 1 and you go up to these officers, and we don't have to keep bringing up the criminal court and criminal justice acts and all the sections 26 and all that. Use their shit. This is their book. Their book. It's not for sale to us. It's their book. It's their shortened guideline, a little keyword book to what they think that you've committed, and you go to it's chapter 1. It's right at the beginning after the bullshit. Find the page. It's that page. The first page of the book with any significance. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, I can see it. I can't read it. It's a bit small on Skype. What is that actual book then, Russ?
It's called the Police Operational Handbook. They come out every year.
I see, yeah.
Blackstone's.
Yeah, Blackstone's Police National Legal Database. Now, the first thing there, and I'll just read you the first line because it says it all. 1.1, Human Rights. Since its introduction, the Human Rights Act of 1998 has greatly affected the operational policing and legislation and courts' decisions. The Human Rights Act of 1998 guarantees and encompasses the fundamental rights and freedoms contained in the European Convention. The following summarised sections relate to the police and criminal justice system. Now, whenever they go to, especially where there's, let's say, there's protesters, where there's groups of people, where it's somewhere, when they look at that individual, the first thing that a police officer, because it says it right on the first page of the book, is, look, make sure that you don't breach this guy's rights. This, a bit like you can't drink in a park. I love arguing bylaws. We were trying to do it this year about fishing licences and doing a daft video and wrapping them in and making out we was just going to buy fish and making out we were catching them and cooking them, because they're so easy to rip to bits. But we don't have to get too clever, and that is the hardest part, is learning not to become too clever. Like I said, them books, you have over 4,000 offences in charge of it. When you know of that offence, or someone makes an allegation, just go and have a read of it. Each and every one of them will give you a lawful excuse. That's why they're so bloody expensive to buy. So people like us are not going to buy them.
And in every
I think, how much of them when they come out? When new?
About 25.
I thought about 35.
We've got loads of Archibalds and stuff here, and there's just the this thick, the great big books, and inside every crime or anything that's in there is defence, and it's always mens rea. The guilty mind.
Your intent.
It's the intent, which is the ultimate. It's the pinnacle of law, which is your intent. Did you intend to commit a crime? Was you negligent? Negligence is something they put a lot of health and safety into this, which is all the road traffic stuff. Is all health and safety complaints. Speeding. You can say it's pre-crime, but it's actually health and safety.
All these new speed cameras that are on the motorways now, which they are the new speed cameras. It's called variable speed limit cameras, are they? So average, variable, whatever. Yeah. You're not going to get if you get a speeding fine off them, you're not going to get away with that. Believe me, or you'll be very lucky, because it doesn't actually come under the Road Traffic Act. That actually comes under health and safety. You know what I mean? Which is a different ball game altogether to Road Traffic Act. I'll tell you something about the M6 is 70 mile an hour. I think it's how many years old? 40 years old, let's say. It's 70 mile an hour. Now, if there's not a speed restriction put in place, right? It was only ever designed to be 70 mile an hour for 6 months. You know what I mean? For 6 months. Because when you get a speeding fine, what is it you get a speeding fine? I complicate myself a little bit there. But basically, you've exceeded the speed limit.
I wasn't listening.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You exceeded the speed limit. You was doing 47 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. Well, hang on a minute, because if you actually go and look at speed limits in law, they're only there for 6 months.
They're all supposed to be temporary.
They're only temporary.
Speed restrictions.
Which comes under health and safety. They can actually ask for an extension, and they'd have to go to court for it to extend it. Bear in mind,
that's not saying you're going to win and you're going to challenge them, but when you go and look at what they do and how they're
what
implementing
it is,
them, that's the basic.
They charge you again with talking the wrong offence.
If anybody is interested, there's a couple of videos I really would highly recommend. And one of them is called Meads versus Meads. And it's a breakdown of the case that the judge did in Canada regarding the OPAC. Was it OA? I can't remember that one.
OPA, I call it.
Yeah, OPCA litigants. Organised, pseudo legal, commercial litigants, if you like.
Which is us.
Which is what they term all the freemen and the sovereign movement, and everybody has. And there's a 40-minute video done by Eternally Aware where he actually goes into this 200-page rant. And what he actually points out inside that video is the fact that the judge also says you're not using prescribed aspects of law in order to make your things, put your cases forward and use them, and actually points out to where the correct procedures are. And it's actually in that 200-page document. So, despite what other people might well think, if it's a tool that we can use, whether you like the human rights stuff or not, I would advise to read it, or at least look at these videos. Now, even if you don't want to follow the human rights stuff, look at the video, because it actually states about how these people have legitimately now can take your documents, if you've put a postage stamp on them, if you've written your name with colons, if you put a thumbprint on them, they're actually saying inside this, you can now mark it as received and put it in the bin.
Shred it.
And it actually says that.
And that's this country. It's every country.
And they're using this in the background constantly. So it really is an important video for people to go and have a watch on. It's called Meads versus Meads, which was a divorce case, which I believe the Reverend Boulanger from Canada was actually behind writing a lot of the documentation for. And it's the judge put a lot of work into it. It's a 200-page rant that's supposed to be the documents and the build-up in order to displace all the so-called freeman arguments and sovereign arguments and things. And they're using it legitimate. I'm not saying that you couldn't dig into it and find it be discriminatory, because you could. But if they've given us remedies in there and teach you a path and a way to have a look at, just go and have a look at it, pre-warned, pre-armed, that's the way to go in rather than going in blind. But it's Meads versus Meads by Eternally Aware.
Oh, thanks for that one, Daz. We've got a couple of questions in here. Rob Freeman's saying, did I hear correctly? Did the guest say that we can use the Human Rights Act?
Yeah.
Okay. And Wesley's saying, are you obliged to give them your details? He said, I'm talking about council enforcement officers, fishing, etc.
Well, you have a right to remain silent even if you're under arrest.
Yeah.
And you can't. To be arrested for not failure to provide details means that the crime is for standing up on one of your own rights. It's not going to be easy, and it depends. I have a different outlook because I'm more into capacities and what capacity you're operating and what title you're running through. I've actually got a voter's registration thing here, which they've sent quite a few through. But it's quite interesting because the only people who are actually not obliged, but the only people who are entitled to vote in this country are citizens, are they not?
As far as I'm aware.
And so if, is it called naturalised peoples? People, basically it's the citizenship of the country. Mm-hmm. And yet people want to get hold of these envelopes and read who they're addressed to. Because I can't see how the government can legitimately, and your local authorities can address an official document which is only for citizens to the occupier.
No, absolutely. Every one of them that I've got, I've scribbled out the window with an indelible marker pen and written at the side, return to sender. I do not recognise you. I do not understand your intent. I do not have an international treaty with you. No assured value, no liability.
Yeah, it's much simpler than that. Back of these, it actually says if the addressee is incorrect. So it's saying that the address is not a location. The address is who it's being addressed to. Mm-hmm. So address how your address, which knows you're standing and everything. So if you go and take one of these and then agree, which basically you're registering as the occupier for being an occupier. You're actually telling them that is your capacity, an occupier. Now, the thing is about capacity, and the thing is about these occupiers, and especially on this particular document, I think they've broken massive amounts of laws, serious laws, by addressing it to occupiers. This is not for occupiers. This is only for citizens. Yeah? And I'm not saying that the citizens are a great place to be, but the IUS, yeah, is one that it's the least arrogation of title that a man can have inside this particular society.
I did note on a similar note. Quite shocked me earlier on today when I found out that in this EU referendum that we're going to have, that any Irish citizens that are resident in Britain are going to be eligible to vote whether Britain stays in, or comes out of the EU. Now, I thought that was really interesting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it would give, should the referendum go the wrong way, in the way that they want, then that would give them a legal argument to overturn the result.
If they didn't know which way it was going to go, with the intended results both being beneficial to them, either way, we wouldn't be getting the chance to vote. Exactly. The thing is, you won't be leaving the EU to go back to where you was. You'll be leaving the EU to go into something that you really don't want to go into. Mm-hmm. And this is why there's a new Bill of Rights and stuff coming on. So I'm watching the judiciary themselves actually argue.
They're actually...
I've actually seen a tweet...
In-house fighting this year alone.
Yeah.
The big war, we've said it for a long time. This government are ruthless, you know what I mean? They're that ruthless, they're even... they're that ruthless. They're attacking the people that are attacking us.
Yeah.
Look at the judiciary now. They're the ones that are keeping us down.
I've actually seen the barrister saying the other day, and actually put out, and he says, "That's it. Chris Grayling is for out. I'm definitely for in." And you've got to really laugh at where these people are coming from and what's happening. So there's a massive amount of infighting. But believe me, this is already pre-planned, pre-done. This isn't about getting out European law and legislation. This is going to lead us into something, in my opinion, that's actually going to be worse. There's a reason. Yeah. I mean, look, people say about human rights. Why does Cameron and all these people want to get rid and destroy these things? Yeah? Why do they want to get out? If it's such a... Yeah, it's not good because it comes through the UN, which is run by other entities and stuff. But it does give you some sort of remedy to be used. I can't find the remedy for the other side. I've not seen it, but this in-out stuff is a bit like people that think Putin's going to be the good guy. Well, I've got news for you. Haven't they controlled every side of every war ever? Come on, look. Oh, he's the good guy, he's the bad guy. They've got to set him up in either way. Whether we believe in it's Obama being the good guy from the general media, or being Putin the bad guy, or the alternative media's telling us the other way, well, it's just caused two great divisions. We're just stuck in the middle. And when Kissinger is having meetings with his buddy Putin and things like that, and people still aren't seeing it. Neither of these people are on our side. It's just a different way of getting to the world fascism that they require.
And they've got the what they put.
And this EU in
a foot on the gas.
It's just the same.
They've got the foot on the gas. They're getting us there a lot quicker. Agenda 21 is just an acceleration of Agenda 2029. It's supposed to be 20. When they have got all our data, we won't be able to communicate on Skype like we are tonight. No. We won't be able to punch numbers in our phone. That's how easy it is to shut us all down. And they won't until they've got all our data. You can't go and buy a loaf from a supermarket without them wanting your data.
Yeah.
And once they everybody's data, your personal data, DNA, once they've got everybody's, that's when they shut us down, because that's when they'll be able to control us. They can't control us now. They can do, but we've still got freedom of speech. But when all this lot goes, mate, and it's a flick of a switch, it's like turning off a light bulb. You know.
Well, if the global financial system crashes and the new financial system is based upon data, then the most interesting people will be the richest.
The thing is about these global crashes, which has always gone on, people don't realise, is quite often it will wipe out a load of debt, which just wipes out the monetary supply. But
which is what they should do at midnight every night.
In order for any particular currencies to come down and crash, there must be another currency which doesn't. There's got to be. It's almost like the crapulence of the system. The monetary system's holding itself together. It's almost become self-regulating. Everybody's involved.
They certainly don't pay much heed to the regulations they're supposed to work under. That is for sure.
There's a lot of people saying, the value's in gold and it's in silver. Yeah, it's a tangible thing. But what gives gold and silver its actual value is the tradable paper commodities that's bound by it. It sets the value of these things. But if you got a proper crash where everything turns off, the flick of a switch, then 97% of the world's finances have just gone in the flick of a switch, quite literally. That's
the only thing.
The only thing that will be worth any money that people are going to clamber for and use due to its scarcity is actually paper money. So the people are going to still be wanting to take that and use it. For how long that may last, I don't know. But it certainly won't be like the Weimar Republic because it isn't printed anymore. It isn't actually produced on any level. You're not going to get massive devaluation that way, because if the flick of a switch makes there's no more transactions going about, then what's in your pocket becomes a lot more valuable.
Yeah, but once the supermarket shelves are gone, you won't be able to buy a biscuit.
Yeah, but at least you can light your fire with them.
You can keep warm, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that with your digi.
No, that won't work too well with your contactless payments, trying to light the fire with them, will it? I see we've got another hour just flown past, guys. How's about another quick music break?
Sweet as a nut, mate.
Okay, we'll have another dedication to Russ and to Dazza and to all you guys out there who are fighting for what's right. And welcome back to Raconteurs News, bringing you untwisted, unsweetened news on peoplesinternetradio.com, where we always seeking solutions. And I'd like to say welcome back to Jason, and also welcome back to Russ and Dazza there. How you doing, fellas?
Excellent. Most enjoyable evening.
Excellent.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. There was a little something you just said to me just before we came back on air there, basically addressing the thing that we've had quite a few posts in the chat room saying acts and statutes only apply if you consent to them. If you'd like to just say your little piece there, Russ.
If I could just have one quick bit.
Well, what I'll do is
consent. Consent comes from the age of consent, so if they don't apply to you, you're 12. It's as simple as that.
But back to how we were talking, that's Blackstone's. It's just one of them, and they've got about 11 or 12 of these. There are statutes and acts, every single one of them, and every single one of them gives you a lawful excuse. Every single one of them gives you a lawful excuse. So if you can find your lawful excuse, what are we scared of? What are we scared of? I love them. I've learned to love them. I've learned to love my straw man. I've learned to tell everybody I'm a 1% share of the United Kingdom PLC. I've learned this. And they can't handle it. They're expecting us to go in. You're talking to me personally. Oh, bring her in. Look, this is your right. I've got a bond here. You've got to deal with me now. I'm the same as you. Whether it's in the eyes of the law or whether it's in contract law, doesn't matter. And I'm finding that is working. Using your birth certificate, going in and going, this is me. You know what I mean? Works a lot better than going, look, that's who you're dealing with. That's called controversy. As soon as we've been controversy into courtroom, we have lost the case. So, and I'm not saying consent.
Rob had a little comment earlier on that he suggested that he seemed to be surprised that you seem to think that you can find remedies within their system.
Well, Rob, early doors, actually put me onto a lot of this stuff by saying you mirror these things back and you go and look what they're doing. Do you know what? He was always right early doors, Rob.
There's lawful excuse. It's a dirty man mens rea. You know, it was the capacity you was in when they accused you of a statute of an act. It's the capacity that you was in and the intent that you had to do with it. And if you had no capacity and no intent, they can't find you guilty. They can't find against you. And it's wrote in every single statute and act. It's wrote in there. That's what I'm saying.
There needs to be, in every crime, there needs to be an actus reus, which is the act itself.
Exactly.
The mens rea, which is the intent.
Yeah.
But apart from in motoring, where the actus reus is because it's strict liability, apparently, in motoring law.
It's gone through a lot of health safety, but you've also got, you must have the capacity as well. You must have the capacity to do it. So the capacity is always part of law. So capacity is something that people tend not to read up on and look into. Capacity is absolutely vital to law.
And surely, if you've got if the actus reus is there, then the capacity must be there because you've got the capacity to do it.
You might
the act itself has taken place.
It's a bit like I suppose if it's actually taken place, but sometimes it depends on what your intent was inside your capacity, or if you actually intend to murder somebody, but you didn't have the capacity, but you've caused them a big bump on the head.
Of course.
Yeah. If that's the best you can do, so that you must. It actually says in assault as well. It actually does say that threats mere threats alone do not constitute an assault. You must also have the capacity to take it out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If a 5-year-old boy comes up to you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to get my dad to do this, we shouldn't take any notice of him. No.
And I know this. I was ill a number of years ago, 18 years ago, and I took an A-level law while I was recuperating, and we went into this sort of thing, and I got into a situation where I'd been to visit somebody. And I'd booked into a bed and breakfast, and I'd actually booked in and paid a deposit at the booking agency, and I'd booked in, and then I'd gone to where the person that I was going to go and see, which, I mean, this was sort of like in the mid-90s, and I got there and I found out they'd died. So I went back to my room, I took my stuff out, and I went home. And I thought, well, I've not used the room, I've paid the booking fee, I've put the... So they've got some. They don't have to do anything to the room, and so that I thought that was it. Anyway, so a few weeks later, I got some police knocking at my door, and they came in and asked me to go to the station and asked me about this. They said I've been making off without payment, and they put the case to me, and I said yes, this is what happened, yada yada yada, and I told them what had happened, and then I said to him, I said, well, in my understanding, that there needs to be an actus reus and a mens rea. In order for a crime to have been committed. Now, an actus reus, the actus reus has happened. I've gone and I've not paid, but I have. They have had, as far as I'm concerned, a civil recompense for what fuss I've caused them. But I didn't go down because I took my family as well. I don't go down and drive 3 hours to Colchester. And then drive 3 hours back with my family just so that I can rip off a bed and breakfast. So obviously there's no mens rea there. And they just said, "Oh well, okay," and they didn't really know what to say. And then they just let me go, and that was the last I heard of it. So it does. Once you have to bring to them what they're not bringing to you. The things that are going to help you. They're not going to bring things to help you. You have to take those in yourself.
Yeah, and you actually summed up perfectly of what me and Darren's been on about. Absolutely perfectly. There was no intent, though. You know what I mean? And this we don't know enough. The people don't know enough about the mens rea and everything else that comes along with it. But the police constables do. Like I said, it was very simple before. We keep shouting assault, and the police stand there. You know what I mean? Because they don't see
know
assault.
what assault is.
You shout battery. You say shout what you want, but Don't shout assault. Assault is just like, wow.
It's what you've seen on the television. It's pre-programmed into people constantly. When people get shoved and pushed, they're shouting assault, assault, assault. You know, police are, I see no assault. I don't see anybody running off trying to protect themselves in fear, because that's assault. When somebody runs off in fear and tries hiding to get away from the threats, if you're stood there nose to nose with a copper pushing you and he's pushing you back, that's not assault, it's battery.
If two guys are in a pub, never met before, and they have an argument, and they decide as two guys, get outside, we'll have a fight in the car park, and there's a police car out there with a couple of coppers in. If they abide by the strict rule of law, they'll sit in the car and watch the fight. Because no one's assaulting anybody. Both have gone out there, they know their intentions.
Yeah, and that's an old legal maxim as well, isn't it? Valentine non fit in jura, which means to he who is willing, no harm shall come. Which is, there you go.
If the pub empties around it, watching it, egging it all on, they might all get done for joint venture.
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. Joint venture actually was wrong for aristocrats. You know, that used to get drunk in pubs. And one of them would get offended, and he'd go up to like 15th, 16th, 17th century with a leather glove and slap him across the face, and we'll have a duel at dawn. And they take 10 spaces, turn and fire. Joint venture was actually wrote, for the people that's egging them on, and the people that actually turned up to them duels, the shootouts. Yeah. So that's how they stopped people having shootouts, duels. You know what I mean? That's how they controlled it. But they abused that, and they've been abusing it up until last week when Lord Nuremberg, the highest judge in this country, of my understanding, I know he's definitely the highest representative in Europe in this country, he gave a ruling that for the last 30 years, joint venture has been misconstrued. And there's going to be a lot of people getting out of prison very shortly, and a lot of compensation being paid out, a bit like a PPI. Because it was a fact. It was never wrote for us. A bit like the Magna Carta. It was never wrote for us.
I still think it's probably the tip of the iceberg.
It was wrote for the barons. And I don't want to be a baron. I'm just happy being a master. You know what I mean? I'm just glad my surname's McGarry. But it's right. And it is about your intent, you know. I had no intent to hit any of them Baileys. Because if I had done, I could have hit him for an hour and a half. It was only once they put fucking hands on my children that I had the right to
self-defence
to defend them, to plead self-defence, and that's what it was. And what was ironical in that trial, I'm having an argument with the judge. Very first morning, it was over the bloody CDs and all that, and I went, and I am here, and I do admit that I hit one man. His face lit up, was like he's just got a present, and he went, so you admit that you did strike one man? I went, yeah, I did. I'll tell you right now, I hit him in self-defence, and he went, these are the words he used. He paused, and he turned around to Mr. Brown, who was the prosecutor for the Ministry of Justice, and he said, do you understand what Mr. McGarry just said there? And Mr. Brown went, I think so. He said, well, I'll tell you what he's just said. You now have to prove...
The onus is now on you.
They had to prove that I had any other intention but self-defence. This is one of the things that I told, we all did, the Rooftop Six. It's self-defence.
You defended another man's property, your belief you were there for
what the prosecution would have had to prove then was, well, what was the motive on being that on that roof? The motive was a judge's order. The lawful administration wasn't prevailed, and they were defending somebody else's property. If they'd have done that, they'd have got the same result, and they got a fantastic result, an absolutely fantastic result, which I'd say categorically proved that. I can only say I don't believe there was a warrant in Nottingham produced for Tom that was signed, because I said to one day last night, I can drag a file out there and I'll show you 3 of my warrants that are signed. So in some cases, and this is what I said straight away, each and every case has got to be looked at, dealt with in its own individual merit. You can't start going, well, it's very similar to this and it's very similar to that, because it's so far apart. In fact, when we try and stick them all together, we're pushing away from the side of the bank of the river. We're ended up in the middle of nowhere. Just got to, Huck's a bit clever. Change the game. If we keep doing the same old things, they learn our tactics. History repeats itself. You know, Wesley will be a perfect example for this, and he's. I've always said what he does is absolutely fucking brilliant. I wish I could do it a lot more. I've one car in my family, and up until not long ago, my wife was working.
You're doing your stuff though. You're doing as much as you can. You're doing to the maximum, aren't you? That's the thing, Russ.
As much as we learn, these Bailey companies, your Barstow Suiters, your Marsdens, your Rosendales, I'm all about your Corks now. They are learning what we're learning. And there's somebody a bit higher up with a little bit of legislation behind them going, this is the way that we're going to get around it. That's why every single year they give away free books at these courts, because they have to rewrite them every year. You have to amend them every year.
They do change rules and they do change.
And that's because we're learning.
Now, an interesting one that gets brought up a lot is when you hear about unlawful administrative hearings, and people have got the wrong presumption of what those actually are. When they're talking about unlawful administrative hearings and unlawful hearings, it doesn't mean they can't do them. Here's the bizarre part. What it actually means, it's not a place that hears law.
Exactly.
It's there not for the law. It's the administrative. It's a trust hearing. It's a private hearing. Generally trust hearings. So unlawful administrative hearings are not something they can't do. It's just not a place where you can have the world's best lawful argument. It's not a place to bring it up.
And the venue that does is on about is council tax, gas meters, electric meters, these type of things. I tell you what they've been doing with us lately.
These are private.
We whenever we've got time to go and annoy them every fucking week without fail down at Wigan with the council tax.
If you can,
we're barred now from going and sitting in because it's the one judge, not just dealing with nearly 1,000 people in 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because there's up to 1,000 liability orders issued out.
They won't let us in the gas and electric warrants anymore.
And
they're using
data protection.
So they throw us out of there now.
Because we know that they're corrupt.
But I've actually heard the clerks ringing round, trying to, because of somebody's council withdraw. If you're against the council, right, the council the magistrates in that particular venue, and it's a venue, cannot find in your favour unless the council withdraw the complaint. Because the council are running that particular show. It is a private administrative hearing. It's not a place to argue law, so it's not an unlawful hearing. They're using several different rules, several different ways of doing it. They quite often down there they'll adjourn it if you bring up an argument, because they claim they haven't got time to hear you, because they've got 1,000 other people apparently that's going to attend.
And there's usually about 10 that turn up.
It tops. And they'll adjourn you then in front of a district judge, and you believe that, this is going to be, a bit of law here. But it's not. The venue is just the same. It's just that there's one judge sat on the bench who's got a bit more nous than it actually being a lawful hearing. If you're not getting sworn into those places,
it's not a court.
It's time to ask why. And if you are being sworn in, well, jurisdiction is spoken oath. So I'm not going to go any further on that. I have got quite a bit of information, but it's not something I really want to share at the moment. But if these administrative venues, if they're unlawful, it doesn't mean it's something they can't do. It's a place that is not there for lawful argument.
And so what you've got to learn is to call the trustees of that trust. No matter who it is.
If these local authorities, the authority that they ban down, are the only people, because it's subordinate legislation to the primary most of the time, is how they bring in the use of force. Because it'll never be written in primary legislation, the use of force.
Only secondary.
There's a few other kits. I mean, council is just a huge headache. There's a lot of things to do wrong, a lot of procedure and stuff, but it tends to be more of a local rules and procedures because there are private areas. I've actually heard clerks, this is when there's been a contest or something to remove, actually ringing round asking for trying to book a private hearing. And that is what they're doing. They are private hearings. They might have the public in there, but it's a private hearing. It's a trust matter. It's something along that, some sort of debtors matter or something, but it's run in the private, which means that the clerks generally shut up, who are the registrars in that room, and are not recording the events. So, you do need to make these things public record if you want to do that, or make it a court of record. But these are private administrative areas. The reason that the old thing about Aylesbury is there is no law to make these things lawful is because they don't need them to be lawful. They don't deem them to be lawful because it's not a place to hear law.
And I was only taught 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks today with my daughter, and I brought up all the arguments. And the clerk of the court had like a grin on his face going, you boy, well, you know your shit. The magistrates went out to retire and he followed them straight away. I turned around straight away to the Wigan Council and I asked her a question and she turned around and she went, we've been instructed we're not allowed to communicate with you. We can't discuss anything with you. But I've not paid council tax for a long, long time, and Daz has seen it. And every time, when I say every time they withdraw it, I haven't won a case. They've only withdrawn it. If they withdraw something, they can represent it.
They actually, when the council say they withdraw it, the magistrates actually say we find in your favour, just to keep up the pretence.
Yeah.
I mean, the previous court case of my daughter's 2 weeks ago. They'd actually took, I think it was 187 quid out of a bank account that they shorted on. And I asked for an order to be made to the magistrate. I proved that she shouldn't have been paying. I asked the magistrates for an order. He actually asked them was I right. They actually said I was right. And then he turned around to me and he went, I can't make an order in favour of you in this court. I went, I've just sat in 2 hearings before this and I've heard you make 2 orders for Wigan Council. Is it not a court? He said, I cannot make an order in this court for you.
I've actually heard the clerk actually state, we have not got the jurisdiction to award costs.
Yeah.
And yet they're awarding
costs
all the
to
time
everybody else.
For the council on behalf, because it's the council's complaint.
Yeah.
And just only a complaint.
And in Wigan, they charge you 65 quid. No, Burning Man, we worked it out. Yeah, well, just one thing. We worked it out one day. Was it 36 grand?
I don't want to go into that at the moment.
Just a little touch?
Yeah, no. No, I'm not going into that.
It is a big, big thing that they're doing, not just in Wigan Court, in every single court.
Leave it for now.
Hey, no man, really. It's actually in the Daily Mirror today.
I know, but
okay, well, just while you're there at the moment, guys, if I could just jump in a moment. I've been asked to make a quick announcement on air because apparently there's some people turned up in the chat room who are expecting Mark Windows to be here. It's his usual slot. And unfortunately, Mark's not available at the moment. I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but I'm sure he'll be back very soon. And we're just covering the slot in the meantime. We'll be on till 10 o'clock, and then somebody else will take over. I don't know who it's going to be yet because I haven't heard, but we'll keep going till 10 o'clock anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the people that have come. It's a bit of a pain.
I hope they've left a deposit like you have.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, move on to the real point. So, one thing Wesley asked to answer before, I just had to nip out and get him.
Oh, there is one thing about council tax, and this is that if you want to learn and see what goes on, and you'll do yourself a great favour and everybody else, is find out when your council tax things are on, because it's always going to be run as well along with gas warrants and stuff like that.
Same day.
Mm-hmm.
Go in, sit down, listen.
Yeah. Just go and sit in the
you'll
court.
be amazed what you learn.
And if you're sitting there for 4 or 5 weeks on the trot, right, they'll ask you to leave in your turn at one day under Data Protection Act.
On the gas warrants.
But you can get round that. What is it? Quality control. You can actually.
I've actually gone into the rooms early, knowing that the gas warrants are going on, and they're expecting to get them stamped off and go out really quick. And because I'm sat in the room for 4 hours, they make them wait till the very end, and they don't half get fed up. And it's off the same. Just go sit down. Yeah. You got an afternoon off. Go in, sit down, watch what's going on. You'll learn a lot, and not only that, you make these people have to work for a living slightly.
Or even if it's not council tax, if you've got an afternoon off, you're a bit bored. Go to the county court. Go and sit in it. Go to the magistrate's court. Go and sit in it. Mm-hmm. Go and sit. One thing I'm asking you to look out for is look how the court is controlled. It's controlled by the bar, the legal bar, the legal judiciary system, and the bar. It's like I say, become litigator. Break that little triangle up, and you will honestly see courtrooms crumble in front of you.
You know, you do go in there and you sit in all the cases as well. You can be all sorts of stuff. And you even hear compassion in there. I've actually heard a magistrate trying not to fine a guy for speeding as much until somebody popped up and said, "You've got to charge this." What's these extra charges they put?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there was 156 and they were bad.
Oh, no, you've got to put this victim surcharge on and this other one. And she went, "Oh, right." Then the guy admitted everything, no money. And then they knocked it down, so he just virtually ended up paying the victim surcharge, which was actually more than the fine she was going to give him.
Well, that's something I really don't get. How the hell can you have a victim surcharge when you've been caught by a speed camera? Where's the victim?
Well, it was interesting.
I had this argument on with a court official because I said, okay, the victim surcharge is, I think it was £10 or something like that, and I said, okay, I'll pay that direct to the victim then, if you know.
Yeah.
And she went, oh no, it's just called that. I said, well, why is it called that? And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, it's obviously because you're trying to make out it's for a victim or something. So, you know, what is it for? Oh, I don't know. And I said, well,
it's the Central Fund. Yeah. Straight back into Central Fund, which is a fund they don't want you to know about either.
No,
yeah, there's loads of bits and pieces, but just go in, sit down and watch, and you do learn, you see some stuff, you know.
And take a pen and a pad, you know what I mean? And they're like, what's he fucking mind now?
Yeah.
Don't like it. Don't like it.
And if you're in council tax or anything like that, get the facts and figures. Always just get the facts and figures. Dates, when they're from, how many they're putting in. Try and note how many people actually roll up to the court when 1,000 people have been summoned and you end up with 6 people and wonder why the halls aren't bursting.
Yeah.
Brilliant that you mentioned that victim. Even my glasses aren't working now. I'll just ask Daz to read Victim. Get this book. Everybody get this book. Please read that, mate. Mate, it's small.
I know it is, and this light's terrible.
You want me to put my light? Here, watch this.
Oh, that's the Oxford Duck.
Hardcore Russ.
We'll start swaying from side to side now.
Yeah,
Is that
amazing?
Sorry, just for the listeners who can't see our video, Russ has got his lighter out there and he's lighting the way so that Daz can read the book.
Do you want me to read it?
Victim.
Yeah.
In brackets, in human rights law.
Human rights law.
Who is actually indirectly affected by an act or omission that is incompatible with European Convention on Human Rights. Well, I didn't know that.
That's what I'm saying. Take it out of the jurisdiction, guys. And that's just looking at because Jason mentioned the word victim. And so you go into the Oxford English and look what it means in law. And it tells you exactly right.
So, apparently it's linked into the Human Rights Act now, but whether it's not going to be the same in all the law books.
What I'm trying to say is we've had many arguments with people, not arguments, heated debates about human rights, and people say they don't work. But when you actually look at, there's so much that says it does work.
English law is superior in this country in the way it works. But what you've got an overriding guide of principles that work with it,
called the European Convention on Human Rights, which comes under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
So, what I mean, this Human Rights Act, people would argue that you have rights as a human anyway.
But you're causing controversy. Why are you going into court I've got God-given rights? God's not there.
I've heard loads of people say that the government are dictating what rights you have, this, that and the other. Well, they've obviously not read what that thing actually says, because it doesn't say that. What it's saying is, these are rights that we absolutely recognise that you have fundamentally. It's not saying what you've got, and this is why, if you don't read Section 11, of that Human Rights Act 1998, miscellaneous provisions, Section 11, you won't understand what they're actually saying. If you read Section 11, it actually says that, and we've got the Lord Chancellor's quote in here somewhere on the law book.
You quoted him before.
And which basically says it's an absolute flaw. This is the absolute bare minimum that we guarantee for you.
And it's spelled FLOOR, not FLAW.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
means it's at the bottom. So everything above what we're quoting is absolutely fact.
But this is what I'm just trying to get over to people, is it's not somebody dictating what rights you have. It's them saying, yeah, we're going to absolutely respect and withhold and uphold all these, yeah? But it's not saying it's everything you've got. It actually states in Section 11, safeguarding of existing human rights. That's telling you the ones that are here in this 90 Act are not all. It's not. It's just something that's in this particular band that we're absolutely going to respect and see. And this is because the Universal Declaration, it says no state may use these rights or abridge them and make them worse, use them to their own advantage, which it says in the preamble. So the ECHR is absolutely doing that. It's using them to the European Convention. The Human Rights Act 1998 is doing the same, but even worse. But the only thing that gives it legitimacy is Section 11 of the 1998 and Article 53 of the ECHR from 1950. Those two make those two acts, Human Rights Act and the ECHR, legitimate. Those two sections. Because without those, they're completely legitimate.
No, I'd like to talk about two acts right now. Human Rights Act 1998, European Convention, Universal Declaration. They are all rights, but rights can actually argue about each other. I can say I don't like you, James, because you wear glasses, and I've took mine off, and you can go, well, I don't. We can argue. You know what I mean? I can call you. I can call Daz anything I want, and he can say you can't say that, and I can say, well, I've got freedom of speech, which is one of my human rights. You've got two absolute rights. They're called absolute. Have a look at
in the 1998, yeah.
Absolute right. No, in all of them is absolute rights.
No, but there are in others, but there's only two in the 1998.
One is Article 12, which is it's huge, and it's the one that they're using against us all the time. And the other one, I forgot the article, it's 17 or 18, which is slavery. They're absolute rights. No, they're above the law. They're above any law. And there's only two. And there's 30 Universal Declarations. There isn't. When you actually look at the Universal Declaration and you start going into the sections and the protocols and everything else of it, it'll take you 3 months to read it's a lot of paragraphs.
And the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights from 1976 even applies in Russia. And they actually
respect it.
They actually use the term human beings and stuff in there, as well as differentiation between citizen, natural and legal persons. They don't even try and hide it.
Yeah. I've got a question. Now, don't you think that it's a sad case of affairs that as human beings we need about 1 billion pages of legislation and rules and things in order to stop each other or try and prevent each other from shitting on each other? Don't you think that on a human level is just the saddest thing out of this entire situation?
Right. Go on.
Absolutely spot on. I'll answer with a very small quote. If there was no cash, we'd all be rich. We'd all be rich. If there weren't this monetary system, and listen, there's nothing wrong with the monetary system. What's wrong is the usury of the monetary system. I don't know if you call it the back of the gold, the Banbury carvings, or whatever you want to do it with. It's the usury. You know what I mean? That's the point of it. So yeah, I know.
Well, yeah, I know you're saying bureaucracy. I mean, somebody told us a quote the other week, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I believe there was the American Constitution was made up of about 2,600 words in total, and the EU law on selling melons apparently is 26,000.
Yeah, that says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right now, I'd just like to bring in, because we are government agents. He's been sat here all night.
What's that, Robocop?
Oh, no, it's a long story, mate. It's about a Christmas present to my son off my daughter. It's a long one, but I was going to sit in there all night and wait for someone to go in the chat box. Who's that?
Nobody can see in chat box. There's only me and Andy that can see you.
I can't even find my chat box.
There's no video tonight, mate.
All right.
Belting.
You're just seeing us two, that's all, and everyone else is hearing you.
Oh, there's you right here. Come and sit up and he does. If I'd known that.
Not again.
eyebrow if you're setting fire to me.
Yeah.
Not again, please. You didn't half make the first hour awkward.
Yeah, but it went quick. Shall we get us? I'll get it.
So, I mean, like I say, it's not right that we have to do and jump through hoops and do this type of stuff, but just by doing a little bit of looking, I'm not saying you ain't going to change things and switch things off, absolutely, but at least we've got a chance of having a look and learning a bit of stuff, and that's all I'm doing. And just get people to have a look at the Meads versus Meads video. It might just help. The guy that's done that before he made his first video has spent 7 years studying this stuff. So I think he's probably worth listening to.
Wow, yeah. I'm going to look that one up, actually. Meads. Is it M-E-A-D-S?
M-E-A.
Meads versus Meads.
Yeah, if you put a video straight after it on your search, you'll find it. I think it's the only video that's been done on it, which surprises me when this is it's a worldwide thing. It really is universal. It's global. And you're considering the movement that was apparently in on these different fractions and levels of it, and there's only one guy done a breakdown of it.
I'd just like to say, guys, that big heavy book that I picked up 2 or 3 times tonight?
Yeah.
Which is the same weight as a sack of potatoes. You never mentioned the size. I thought everybody could see it.
Oh, bless. No, it was a big, thick book. It was about 4.5, 5 inches thick, wasn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
aye.
And just so that everybody knows, Russ had a big sack of taters. Which weighed as much as his book.
Yeah, no, it's been very, very enjoyable. And like I said, I was talking to Andy last night, and I've over the last few months gone on. I'm the biggest, and I don't even get it on Facebook. I get them in personal emails that I'm the biggest troll in the world. And I go, well, yeah, if you think that, because my opinions changed, and I'm looking at how to start winning court cases. I say this, right, but I wish we could all live under the premise of cause no one any harm, loss, or injury. Unfortunately, in life, Daz did a job for a guy over the alternate.
Don't ask.
No, we're not going to go into it, but that's how easy it is. Where someone can go, you cause me loss and injury, though.
When you do somebody a favour. Yeah. But, we get tests and trials all the time in all that we do. And it's like if we get angry, sometimes you can say we're right to do it, but it's a choice we make. We've got to realise that we've got freedom of choice no matter what we do. If they enslave you, if you're having to brew up for somebody, they better be careful, because I know if I'm enslaved, I'll be pissing in the brew.
Yeah.
But because I've still got freedom of choice to do those things. You might enslave the body, but not the mind. So all the time, the more we see, the more we start to act in good on and realise that it's up to us to lose our temper. It's up to us if we lash out. It's up to us the way we conduct ourselves. We might be forced into situations, but at the end of the day, we still got to make a choice of how we treat and how we react to each other. If you think you don't react, there's no reaction. You just act then, as opposed to being an instinctual reaction where we lash out at people. So if you can ever give yourself the time to step back, take a breath, think, you disarm the reaction.
And also take emotion out of things. Anything that you're reacting to, try and take emotion out of it, and just react to the actual, the facts, the intellectual part of it. So you can react to that, because then all you're doing is if you're reacting emotionally, is you're just draining yourself of your energy. That's all you're doing, and it's not going to do any good in the end, because when you're in a state of emotion, you can't think properly.
But they're very well trained and versed in getting us annoyed. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's really hard, and that's what. I mean, I must admit, when I ever go into a court, I have a fucking big joint before I go in, because I don't give a shit. If I forgot what I'm on about halfway through it, because I'll go, I'm litigated, I'm under pressure, I'm under duress, I'm shitting myself. Look at me. I was saying to that judge, and I was doing that with my hands. I'm going, look at me. You've got me physically shaking now, and because I was coming out with all this, you should have seen him, mate. He was like a St. John's ambulance nurse. He was looking after me like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, you are right.
So,
Don't let them think we're smarter than them. You know what I mean? Let them think we're dumb fucks, and then slip in what we know. You know what I mean?
You know what? As well, try not to talk too much, which is
Go over there, Dad.
and it's amazing when they respond when they're talking, how much information they pass over each time. They really, really do.
Oh, you picked up a good point. I'd just like to come back on, so we drifted. If anybody's got a complaint against any police, any bears, anything whatsoever, certainly the police, go make a formal complaint, you know what I mean, and accuse them of stuff. Involve, whether it's the IPCC or involve, and a lot of people go, they're all about the crop. Yeah, that's why you've got to involve them, because security policemen are in a lot of trouble. Them bears are in a lot of trouble, and the reason why they're in a lot of trouble is because I cause conflict of interest between both parties. The professional standards of investigation actually is supposed to go and be independent and take all these statements off of these individual officers. When you've got those statements, they're signed, right, and you can categorically prove through witnesses with first-hand knowledge or with video evidence or data evidence or audio recordings, you are... but always put the investigation, because it costs you nothing. They have to go out there and work, and they're going to send you back findings. They're going to go, no, they did the job that day. But you've got to then read between the lines, take all those statements in and put it against the evidence that you know is right, that you've got all that video, audio data, and put it against them. And mirror, bang it straight back to them, you know what I mean?
Which again, that originally came from Rob Freeman saying that, which is what I believe. I mean, doing similar processes, the other guy's not able. I only met him about 18 months ago. Now, there's another guy there's like three of us that do a little bit of work. Now, we've all helped a little, but I mean, the other fella, he's the only guy I actually know physically who's been given a payout from Northampton Bulk Centre.
Well, I told you about this, around there.
Yeah.
You know, by looking at things in the correct way, by looking at how they respond, by getting these two little letters and stuff, it's amazing the results you can get. And you can hold the feet to the fire. But you've got to be able to see what they're sending back. And, I mean, they even provisionally agreed to the guy's fee schedule. You know, as I said, they're actually just quibbling about the amount here. And once we amended the amount and went back in, they wanted to talk some more.
Yeah.
But they, the Northampton Bulk Centre actually admitted maladministration. If they ever write back to you and say, you write to these people, if they ever come back and say, yeah, we've noted your complaint, just I didn't put a complaint in a complaint. If they say they've taken a complaint, that's a procedure that's started. And that procedure is good, because in magistrates they only deal with complaints. They don't deal with claims. It's always complaints. I didn't complain. It's a complaint because that's what it's gone in as.
I'm with you. There's a lovely little statement just gone up in the chat room in response to something you said a little bit earlier, Daz, about staying calm. And Nick L says, always take your metaphorical glass jar to court and pop your emotions in there for the duration.
I was so hoping she was going to say take a jar of dirt in her then. Always have the land with you.
Do you remember on Blockbuster, if you was old enough, you used to get people that used to have a mascot in front of her, like bird. You take whatever you want that makes you feel comfortable.
But yeah, she's right. If you can take, but it isn't easy. It's not it's not a play. I'm probably the most nervous I've ever been sat in a court was actually going to his summing up after helping him with passing advice on
the bailiff assault.
On the bailiff assault, and I sat in there for the summing up, and it was a proper roller coaster ride. But I'd have felt more comfortable if I'd been in the hot seat. genuinely what? But yeah, they're not comfortable places. But I mean, the result was absolutely spot on that day. There was a few little errors in law that still need correcting, but You know, when you somebody
On
you're
their
with
part,
who's,
not ours.
on their part, somebody who's actually looking, they're trying to imprison, and you've passed some information on and some stuff to vote to do and look at things, and it works, great. But you know, the responsibility when you're trying to pass people and help people, it's huge, and we should realise that. And if we can get people out of this to step back, if people, there's no ego here when it comes to say, you know, it's not face-saving exercise.
No.
If you're not comfortable challenging and doing these things, don't do it, because there's enough people out there that need and want help, right? But let me tell you, when you are helping these people and put it in, if you think it's a no-pressure situation, certainly for somebody like me, it couldn't be any further from the truth, because it is a pressure situation.
It is for me. Every time you go, it's you're walking into an arena, and I don't have. I could tell you, I could have had, never as much as Tom Crawford, but I could have had a lot of people at my properties. When I was charged with the bailiff assault, it had to go through the county court because it was a private criminal prosecution, but they moved it to the Crown Court in Liverpool. And when I went, I asked why they'd been moved to that, and they went, "We thought you was going to have a lot of support here, and we needed more people." No, I got it out of him about half an hour later. That this is it. We can only imprison you here. That's what he said. we can't imprison you in the Crown Court. I thought, well, that's a nice shot. You know, a dig below the belt before even the bell went. But
I mean, I didn't know Russ during his eviction time and losing his house at all. I had no contact. I seen one.
About a week after, wasn't it?
Because I'd pulled away completely from all the scene that was going on and all the information. I'd just gone off doing my own thing, my own way, and I'd started going back to one meeting, and I was hoping to bump into, and it was actually, I went in one night and Russ was there, so it was quite good. And I said, "Look, do you mind if I share something with you?" And basically I talked to him and shared it to him about assault. And a couple of other things, a couple of subtle points in law on what to do, and it works. Well, it works. But what I'm saying is, you look at people and you see them making mistakes, and you don't know how to involve. It's difficult to be able to come in and say, "Look, this isn't right. You need to do something a bit different. You need to help." You can only pass this information on once or twice. People don't have to take it. They don't have to run with it. They can carry on doing their own thing. Good luck to them. But if you're going down a path that people have ended up with bloody noses, ended up losing their houses, losing their cars, doing all this, really think twice about looking for this other path, because there's something not quite going on. Now, if people don't want to listen, fine, I have no problem with that. I've got further information that, I'll talk to people and help. I'm no guru in this, far from it, because I look back and this system, and it's our system, by the way, it's not theirs, it is ours. We just need to
understand it. Get an understanding of it.
Absolutely, we should. But what I'm saying is, we can act differently, and it's not. You know what? If you're not sure about these bills, but you can afford to pay it, pay it. If you can't afford to pay it, go and tell them. Because, like I say, the law cannot compel an impossibility. No. If you can't pay, you've not got it. Tell them. If it's not just being, I'm not. Don't cut your nose off to spite your face. Don't try and make things worse. Try and make the best of each situation if you can. Stop losing your property. Stop losing your kids. Yeah. You know what I mean?
In fact, if you want to, if you ever want to do another show, whenever, we're working on something right now, and Daz actually dug it up, and it was a bone to be chewed on, and it's a way to. The gas and electric and the prepaid meters, we're fighting it wrong. We've got to turn out how we fight it. And we've worked out by using the human rights, by using certain things. We
believe one of the things that they do in order to keep meters in people's houses is using human rights against us. Where they actually have to provide us with these things. Because if they remove them, from a business, they'll remove your power. Not a problem. From houses and stuff, they struggle because it's a breach of fundamental human rights. It's forced servitude and slavery. Yeah. Now, prepayment meters, the same thing again. But what you should be doing with prepayment meters is not saying I don't want them in. You should be negotiating the cheapest possible price that you can afford, because that puts them in a real difficult situation to say, you're going to put them in, but I can't afford it. I can only afford this rate.
Offer them.
And that puts them in a really funny situation, because I'm telling you, they're using human rights and stuff. They don't want to breach it, to force these payment meters to go in. What you need to say, I'm willing to accept that. Negotiation of this contract is, I need it. I can only afford £20 a month for my power. And that's what I need you to charge me.
I'm with you guys. That's really useful thing to know. Unfortunately, the 2 hours has flown by, and we're nearly at the end of the third hour now. So, is there any way that people can get in touch with you or see the work that you're doing? YouTube channels, Facebook, anything like that?
I'm just private.
Yeah, I'm not private. I'm an activist for this. Actually, my wife called me up. What is it? No, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, I haven't got a mobile phone. I explained this, and God, get rid of your mobile phones, mate. Get rid of them. They are a big problem. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The two putting the video camera on, trying to get a shot on YouTube to actually, I'm not even asked with people. You know. Yeah, people get in touch with me definitely through Facebook, 100% through Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel and get in touch with me through there.
And if anybody does want to speak to me, there's a few people on Skype. Not many. I'm not in many rooms.
Okay.
But obviously, if you care in touch with Russ, I'm happy to have a chat.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say a big thanks to turning up tonight and spending these 3 hours with us. It's been absolutely fascinating. It's great to hear that people are having some victories. Jason, you look like you want to say something there, man.
No, I was just going to say, thanks, guys.
Okay.
It's been fantastic. Great talking to you.
And I'd like to stay tuned for hopefully with the rest of a great Tuesday evening on People's Internet Radio. And we'll be back at 7 o'clock on Friday evening, and we'll have Claire Kennedy from Freedom Talk Radio. A fascinating lady who we met over at Leeds a few weeks ago, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to her. She calls herself a Rainbow Warrior, so that should be very interesting. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Russ, and thank you, Dazza. Thank you, Jason. And we'll be back with you all on Friday. Thanks, everyone. Good night.